Very good afternoon to everyone. We are very happy to welcome you on the third day of this training session. And I would want to quickly mention this to you that the assignments that you are submitting, I want to tell you that we are looking at each of those very closely. And tomorrow I have a session with you. I think I am going to talk more about those assignments tomorrow. So just to tell you that the tasks that have been given to you, we are taking them very seriously. What you're submitting, we are closely reading those assignments. And but more on that later. Let's begin today's session and by formally welcome our guest today, our speaker for today, our finance officer here at the University of Delhi, Mr. Girish Ranjan. He is a very decorated officer. If you look at experience in the past, the institutions that he has served, as well as the kind of financial administrative experience that he is bringing with him. He has served in various central universities and he joined Delhi University in year 2021. He has been a student of finance, business administration, law, company secretary, and many other things which he studied during his university time. So I'm sure that we all are going to immensely benefit from what he has to offer today. Never mind the fact that cannot say what he had to present on the screen, because as he talks you will see that he remembers everything in verbatim and it just comes out of his mouth. We have been now listening to him for many sessions and we are very fortunate that he gave us time for this session. Sir, over to you now. But before that, can we formally welcome sir with a plant? I ask Meenakshi madam to welcome sir. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you, madam. Now let's begin, sir. Over to you.
Okay, thank you and good afternoon to all of you who have joined this. So, what the topic I have been given is that is financial administration in educational institutions. We are apart from the government organizations or government companies, वगैरह. Well, we maintain like companies, they are mainly concerned with their profit maximization, but we are concerned with the development activities. There are development, we are not concerned with the profit making, but we are just to manage the fund, whatever the income is there, yeah, profitability is income over expenditure is there, we transfer it to the capital funds. So what does it mean? The financial administration consists of two words, that is finance and administration. The word administration refers to organization and management of collective human resources in pursuit of achieving a common objectives. But you say why it is called financial administration? Without finance, finance is the life blood of an organization. If you are not having any blood circulation in your body, what you will do? You will die. Every organ will failure. Similarly, like that, without finance, a organization cannot survive. For machinery, for materials, for man, you need a finance. That is what is that. As such, financial administration becomes a very sensitive word. The term financial administration refers to that set of activities which are related to making available money to the various branches of an office or organization or enable it to carrying out its activities. Now I am coming to finance. So financial administration leads to not only generating the finance, but its effective utilization. Previously, we are using financial means just to make available the finance, but in modern concept or in present, the Professor S.C. Kuchal has rightly said that financial management is not only generating revenue or resources, but its effective utilization at right place, at right time, and with complete legality. So for maintenance of legality is must. That's you. So what is the origin of general financial rule says why it is required? Means it was first introduced in 1935. It was introduced in 1935. There was a financial rule was framed. Why it was framed? All the governor generals or other the provincial officers, we are not having any delegation of financial powers. The everyone was misutilizing the funds of the government. Government, how the government money? Why it is called public money? Since the taxpayers' money is received by the government and that is utilized. That's why it is called as public money. The public money, the government has revenue, government revenue comes only from the taxes. Either it is indirect taxes or it is a direct taxes. What does it mean, direct taxes and indirect? So I think all of you must know direct taxes, that is we pay as income tax. That whatever income we generate, that is paid to the government as per following the certain exemptions and deductions. And indirect taxes are that we are not directly paying, but it is customs duty, GST that we are paying to the seller, and the seller is depositing that money. That is called indirect taxes, but which we are not directly paying, but it indirectly we are paying. So that tax money is going to the coffers of the government. And what are the government has two development expenditure. One is education and another is health. Other so government is mainly focused on we are educational institutions. The whatever government money is the expending on us, that is development expenditure. And other expenditures are other expenditure, normal expenditures, that is called for other department, income tax department say, or planning division, or agriculture department and other things, but they are not the development expenditures. Development expenditure is only in health and education. The education is one of the important sector that we have to manage and we have to see, and we all are responsible for that. You might say that, see that on 3rd March 2016, onus of responsibility has been given to the finance officer. If there is any lapses, the finance officer will be solely responsible for that. Even though the management takes any decision and which is not according to the law, the finance officer can check that. The finance how check that and stop that payment and advise them this is not as per the law, sir. Otherwise, it will be deducted from his salary if there is any lapse. So how the finance officer works? Finance officer is worked by its own team. Similarly, in the colleges, the college works, the administrative officer has the most and foremost important role in managing the financial administration of a college. So how the financial administration, the सबसे पहले आपको, do all of you understand Hindi or English will be better? हाँ, English will be better ना?
नहीं सर, थोड़ा हिंदी की
थोड़ा
सर,
हिंदी
थोड़ा हिंदी की
Okay.
मिक्स
ओके देन, तो फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में सबसे पहला आपका रोल होता है, यू शुड हैव ए साउंड नॉलेज ऑफ ऑल द रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन, नॉट ओनली जनरल फाइनेंशियल रूल्स but also what is establishment rule, what is service matters, what is code of conduct, and what is fundamental rule and supplementary rule is FRSR. So आपको you should have a broad knowledge of this, and you should first, my suggestion to all my brothers and sisters who is working in finance section is to study continuously the rules and regulations and be updated every time through website or through government notification or the Department of Expenditure notification and everything. So if he will not be updated, he will be fail at any moment. क्योंकि financial concurrence, financial advice is most important things. Our government has also directed and provided in every organization there should be a financial advisor who should give concurrence on each and every financial transaction, and his concurrence is the most important and vital thing. So all the persons, either he is a finance officer or a financial advisor or administrative officer, he should be fully equipped or have fully sound knowledge of all the financial matters. Now, how the finance works? The finance works सबसे बड़ा चीज है, you should have the financial planning for administration of financial advisor. First, you should have financial planning, then budgeting. Third one is resource mobilization. Fourth is investment decision. Fifth, expenditure control, accounting, reporting, and auditing. These are the challenges in which you have to be the master. You cannot say that this is not known to me, or this is not known to, this has not been apprised to me, but you must be well acquainted with all these rules and regulations. So for now, what is your responsibility? Your responsibility is very vast. Suppose फाइनेंस क्या कर जाता है, जितनी आप क्यों रेगुलेट करते हैं कि आपकी जितनी चादर है उतना ही आप अपने खर्च को बढ़ाइए. इट मीन्स व्हाट इज योर रिसोर्सेज, व्हाट इज योर इनकम, अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट यू परमिट देम टू यूटिलाइज द फंड, और दैट फंड शुड बी यूटिलाइज जुडिशियली. उसके पहले एनी ऑर्गेनाइज, दूसरा चीज है कि ईच एंड एवरी रूल मस्ट बी स्ट्रिक्टली फॉलोड, लाइक compliance of statutory deductions, timely deposit, otherwise you will be penalized. Your department will be penalized and you will be solely responsible. तो आप इनकम टैक्स का है कि आपको 7 तारीख तक whatever TDS you are deducting, that must be deposited timely. GST है, GST tax must be deposited timely, return must be submitted timely, income tax return must be submitted timely, form 16 or 16A should be submitted timely, should be issued to the all concerned. Rate of deductions of income tax or GST must be known to you. Agar if there is any lapses, you will be penalized. Even though if you are hiring outsourcing services, you have to deduct tax and you have to make payment. You have to see whether provident fund has been deposited, provident fund has been deducted from the outsourcing services, and that has been deposited timely or not. ESI provisions has been given to or not the employees concerned. So this is also a social welfare that you have to control. Now I am coming to how to manage the funds. अब मैनेज फंड करने के लिए सबसे पहले आप क्या करते हैं कि you have to prepare the budget. You have to prepare, but then only you can control everything. And you have to budget prepare करते हैं, how much estimated income you are expecting. और आप फाइनेंशियल किसी भी एवरी ईयर का फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग करते हैं सबसे पहले कि व्हाट इज योर प्लानिंग कि नेक्स्ट ईयर व्हाट एक्सपेंडिचर वी हैव टू इंकर, हाउ विल कंट्रोल, हाउ वी विल जनरेट द रेवेन्यूज, what mechanism you are developing, and all these are not only you only alone you cannot do this. You consult with your management, you consult with administration division, you consult with your engineering division, you consult with your purchase division, and then call a meeting with all those fellows and ask them what is your expectation, what you are going to do in the next financial year, and how we can manage them. Then prepare a judicial budget. Judicial taking into consideration a judicial view, prepare a budget. How the budget is prepared? Suppose now there are 3 components of the budget. Do you know if every central university or college administration budget is granted for 3 heads of expenditure? Number 1 is salary, that is called budget head 36. The number 1, second is recurring budget, that is called is budget head 31, and that for capital expenditure, that is budget head 35. Then you cannot divert. First remember, never allow or you don't permit them to divert one budget head to another budget head and another to one. You cannot transfer fund from 31 to 35 or 35 to 36 and similarly vice versa. So that must be controlled. The salary expenditure, the salary budget should be utilized only for meeting salary, regular salary expenditure, either for teaching or for non-teaching. Similarly, capital expenditure, that is for meeting your capital needs, that is construction of building projects, furniture, purchase of furniture, ICT equipments, laboratory equipments, books, journals, etc. Renewal of journal, please remember, renewal of journals is a recurring expenditure, whereas purchase of new journals is a capital expenditure. So capitalize it, and accordingly you just prepare the budget, and then comes to the recurring expenditure. Recurring expenditure consists of pension and pensionary benefits. Whatever, even though all of our maximum, if any organization is giving pension to the employee, that will be covered in here. In this, even CPF, contributory provident fund, employer contribution, not employee contribution, employer contribution should also be taken from this recurring head of budget. Again, NPS contribution, that should be also taken from the recurring head of. Apart from, there are several heads of expenditure, including electricity payment, payment to outsourcing staff, transportation, traveling expenditure, fellowship, student fellowship, non-net fellowship to the student you provide, that all are covered under the recurring head of expenditure. So accordingly, if you have to prepare the budget for salary head of expenditure, that I am explaining you how you will prepare. First, you prepare what salary you are giving to the your regular employees. So that should maintain or give at least 10% hike. Average whatever giving it, multiply by 12 and give 10% hike in that. Why 10%? You generally see 3% to 4% DA is provided every year at 2 times, on 1st January or 1st July. Again, and there is also a provision of increment, the 3% increment you are giving to. So just simply add 10%, then you will be on the safer side. So this is called aqua budgeting, regular budgeting or performance budgeting. Whatever you have performed or whatever you have spent in the previous year, that you are taking in the next year. Now come to, suppose your management says, ki I am going to recruit 500, 400 teachers, या 30 teachers, या 40 teachers like that, professors itne post, associate professors itne post, or assistant professors and other regular employees. So take into consideration the minimum salary of these posts, what your management is going to recruit, and take minimum salary, and also right now what they are drawing. Suppose a person joins on an initial post, what total gross amount you are giving to him, that should be taken, and that should also be multiplied by 12, and 10% increment should be given, 10% increase should be given. So this is called zero-based budgeting. One that was on incremental base of budgeting or performance based of budgeting you are giving. So that was on the basis of the expenditure you are incurring. That is, and what you are taking from zero, that is called zero-based budgeting, scratch based budgeting. So when you will prepare the budget, you will have the cushion on regular salary expenditure that you have to meet, how much amount you have to meet, and for teachers to be appointment, what amount you are going to meet. And this will prepare a solid budget for you, and you will face no any consequences in managing the funds of the organization. Apart from this, there are other components also. So what other components is that you are taking? Just see the previous year trend, according 10% or 20%, taking into consideration the regular faculty or non-faculty's amount what you are releasing, and other you are expecting, so 20% you can take this. So accordingly your salary budget will be prepared. Similarly, revenue budget will be prepared according to your previous year's expenditure, and take appropriate amount at 20%, 15% increase, take it. But suppose you are going to into some new recurring expenditures you are going to incur. Suppose your plant has been installed, your capacity has increased, you are going to provide transportation facilities, yeah, something new expenditure that you have to incur, like organizing seminar. Vice Chancellor, yeah, authority has told that in this coming financial year, we have to organize 10 seminars. We have to incorporate certain other expenditure which is essential, that we have to means, yeah, convocation expenses which you have not convened in previous year. Yeah, any type of expenditure, just ask from me, sir, what is your planning? You write a letter to all your departments, you write a letter to the management, discuss with them, sir, is there any new plan of yours to be conveyed, yet to be incurred, on which expenses is expected, or what amount you are supposed to utilize, spend in this coming financial year. Then according to that, prepare the revenue budget also. The most important thing is that capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is not incurred every year. Suppose we have purchased camera or TVs for everywhere, but it is not supposed to purchase. It may be purchased for another department. So then ask from all the departments or discuss with the authorities sir, what is your plan? Do you have any plan? कि क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. लाइब्रेरी बुक्स तो आप पीरियडिक हर साल देख रहे हैं, लाइब्रेरी बुक्स परचेज हो रहा है, तो उनसे एक एस्टिमेट मान लीजिए कि व्हाट एस्टिमेट सर यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग टू यूटिलाइज इन द कमिंग ईयर. Accordingly, you prepare the budget. Now the budget should be duly approved by your whatever budget. The budget must be realistic. नॉट फॉर ये कि आपको जो फंडिंग आ रही है आप कितना खर्च कर रहे हैं और कितना जस्टिफाई आप खर्च कर सकते हैं. एवरीथिंग शुड बी रियलिस्टिक, नॉट इन हैफाजर्ड मैनर. ये भी डाल दो, ये भी डाल दो, वो भी डाल दो, करना कुछ नहीं है ऐसा. दैट शुड नॉट बी सो. आप प्रीवियस ईयर्स एक्सपेंडिचर को ट्रेंड रखिए. 10 years, दो ज्यादा नहीं, 3 साल पीछे में, 3rd years बैक का प्रीवियस एक्सपेंडिचर शुड बी टेकन इनटू कंसीडरेशन, एंड देन द बजट शुड बी प्रिपेयर्ड ऑन अ रियलिस्टिक मैनर. आफ्टर द बजट इज प्रिपेयर्ड, गेट इट अप्रूव्ड फ्रॉम योर competent bodies, whatso the finance committee may or your governing body, and then it should be submitted to the funding agencies. Suppose funding agencies allocates the budget to you, or accordingly whatever the budget is allocated, prepare a register, sanction letter register according to the head of expenditure. Now the words come. Now the word comes control of expenditure. That is the most important and vital thing of the financial administration. The control of expenditure is that every month the expenditure should be taken, whatever expenditure is being made. Then according to that you control the expenditure. Agar if you or if there is any deficit in that, reappropriate that amount. What is reappropriation? When there is an anticipated saving in one of the head of expenditure and there is deficit in another head of expenditure, then you can transfer that amount, then anticipated saving, to other head of expenditure. If that expenditure is justified, then this is called reappropriation of fund. But it should not be transferred from one major head to another major head. That is salary to recurring, recurring to capital, or vice versa. या capital to salary. But within that head of expenditure, you can reappropriate. But every head, recurring head ka, whatsoever the expenditure may be, please make a checklist. You make in detail the total expenditure details, head-wise. Suppose salary ka, whatever the component budget allocated for faculty salary, whatever budget allocated for non-faculty salary, whatever budget allocated for the other components, whatever budget allocated for pension and pensionary benefit, whatever budget allocated for NPS, whatever budget allocated for electricity, budget allocated for transportation, budget allocated for seminar, and like that. The first and foremost important duty of a financial administrator is to make detailed budget allocation register, and according to that they should give the financial concurrence. Financial concurrence, other, if you are not in this department, the purchase department or other department sends you a requisition, you just write down or advise your staff, this is the budget allocation, so much amount has been utilized till date, this fund is available, so we may give the financial concurrence. Accordingly, you can have the control of expenditure, and by this you will see that there is a proper control. Or whatever the public is asking, public matlab other department, faculty or other staffs is asking fund, just ask them what is the justification of this expenditure, and discuss with them whether it is urgently required, or what is the necessity of purchasing, or what is the necessity of incurring this expenditure. Only this, although they will take it otherwise, but don't afraid. फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आप तभी मैनेज कर पाएंगे जब आप पहले बजट कंट्रोल करेंगे. आपका बजट खत्म हो गया, डोंट गिव एनी अप्रूवल और अप्राइज द मैनेजमेंट, या टॉप मैनेजमेंट हुई आइदर टू वाइस चांसलर और रजिस्ट्रार और प्रिंसिपल और ट्रेजरर, सर दिस इज द फंड पोजीशन, नाउ वी हैव टू मैनेज द थिंग्स. ओके, अगेन now this is your control of expenditure portion. अब आपको क्या करना है, पहला दिन. The second thing is every month the cash you should see that your accounting is proper. Every month you should see each and every expenditure is properly maintained in the proper head of expenditure. That you have to also see. नहीं समझ में आता है, कंसल्ट एनी सीनियर पर्सन और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट कोई है उनसे कंसल्ट कीजिए, नहीं तो सारे किताब में कंसल्ट कीजिए, गूगल में कंसल्ट कीजिए किस हेड ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर है, वेदर इट इज कैपिटल, वेदर इट इज रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर, और किस हेड ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर से ही एक्सपेंडिचर हो रहा है. तो बैंक, it has also come to my knowledge कि बैंक reconciliation of many of the organization is not proper and the audit is making observation several times. तो बैंक reconciliation must be every month. Whatever अगर कोई उसमें एरर नजर आता है या कुछ गड़बड़ी आती है, जैसे आपने कोई पेमेंट डिपॉजिट करवाया दैट हैज नॉट बीन क्रेडिटेड बाय बैंक, या कोई एक्सपेंडिचर आपके यहाँ से हो गया बैंक हैज नॉट टेकन इट डेबिटेड, देन आप बैंक को चिट्ठी लिखिए. और बैंक रिकॉन्सिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट एवरी मंथ देयर बैंक रिकॉन्सिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट शुड बी प्रिपेयर्ड, और इट इज द रोल ऑफ द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन to advise or suggest to make proper reconciliation every month. And the cash book must be closed. अब तो cash book, no one is making any transaction in cash, तो bank book होता है, तो bank book must be properly maintained and account should be prepared. आपको you have to follow the timeline. Every financial year starts from 1st April to 31st March. Now TSS system of accounting has been introduced. So if you are not able to incur expenditure up to 31st March, total funds lapses. So you have to be very vigilant while utilizing the fund. Just check and be cautious कि each and every fund या grant must be properly utilized, for which it is also the responsibility of the financial administrator to communicate to all the concerned कि sir, whatever expenditure you have incurred, please submit the bills on time so that we may utilize the funds or we may utilize the grant, otherwise the funds will lapse and you have to pay the bills in the next financial year. So that will be a heavy burden on you. How the budget will be controlled. You have given financial concurrence, everything you have given, but you are taken as liability. Liability in every, while you are closing the financial year closes on 31st March, you have to take into account of everything. Everything, the bills which have been expenditure, which have been incurred in the previous year, or you have to take liability of all the expenditure in the next financial year, and that impact is going on your next year budget. So every person should be communicated that expenditure, if you have already incurred the expenditure, that must be immediately settled or immediately submitted for release of the payment. Financial administration is what? That is, it is accuracy, timeliness, transparency, and every person who is the stakeholder must be satisfied. It is common practice कि that is हम बिल ले लिए, बिल को रखे हुए हैं, क्या सेंस है बिल को रखने का? कोई सेंस नहीं है। यू मेक ए डेडलाइन कि आई हैव टू क्लियर ऑल द फाइल विद इन 7 days, विद इन 15 days। आपका काम है, फाइनेंस का काम है। फाइनेंस सबसे बड़ी चीज है, ट्रांसपेरेंसी रखिए। आप लॉ का प्रोविजंस कीजिए, जो चीज है कैलकुलेशंस चेक कीजिए, सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स देख लीजिए कि इनक्लोजर्स है कि नहीं। ये भी हम लोग एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन, वी आर एन एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन, इट हैज कम टू आवर नॉलेज, टीचर सेज दैट वी आर दी पर्सन, हम लोग पढ़ाने में बिजी हैं, वी आर, हमें क्या रूल की जानकारी है या हमें क्या मालूम है। तो अगर इफ यू आर परमिटिंग देम for incurring any expenditure, financial concurrence is given, so you just write down in their letter if this purchase या this procurement, this expenditure should be strictly following the general financial rules। तो जनरल फाइनेंशियल रूल्स, अब वो कहेंगे व्हाट इज जनरल फाइनेंशियल रूल। आप जो भी प्रोविजन है उनका एक कॉपी निकाल करके, प्रिंट आउट निकाल करके उनको दे दीजिए, उनको एडवाइस कीजिए। बी ए फ्रेंड ऑफ देम, नॉट ए वॉच डॉग। जो बिफोर अकरिंग एनीथिंग आप उनको अप्राइज कीजिए कि दिस इज द प्रोसीड्यूर सर दैट यू हैव टू फॉलो। इससे आपकी इज्जत बढ़ेगी, लोग आपको पूछेंगे। और हर चीज का डिसीजन लेने का ही नहीं, ये नहीं कि वो एक्सपेंडिचर इनकर कर दिए तो 50 ऑब्जेक्शंस लगा करके आप, जब मैं बहुत स्मार्ट हूं, मैं ऑब्जेक्शंस लगाता हूं, मैं बहुत जानकार हूं, और उनको तंग करेंगे, हरास करेंगे। ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए। नाउ कॉन्सेप्ट चेंज हो गया है, और आज के कॉन्सेप्ट में बी फ्रेंडली विथ ऑल द थिंग्स। अब दूसरी बात है, फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में बहुत सारी चीजें हैं। जैसे आप, एक बात है कि आप टेंडरिंग प्रोसेस में होता है, तो टेंडरिंग प्रोसेस में क्या क्या चीजों का ध्यान रखना है वो चीज देखिए कि प्रॉपर, जैसे अब रूल 149 जेम का आ गया है, तो मैंडेटरी प्रोक्यूरमेंट ऑफ द जेम है। इफ जेम पे अवेलेबल नहीं है कोई चीज, देन उनको कहिए कि सर नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट ले आइए, जेम से आप डाउनलोड कीजिए, और देन गो फॉर अदर ऑप्शंस। दैट इज, बट दैट शुड आल्सो बी एज पर द जनरल फाइनेंशियल रूल्स। ये देखा गया है कि लोग रूल्स को तोड़ने में बहुत विश्वास करते हैं, ये चीज नहीं है। तो आप उनको स्ट्रिक्टली बताइए। आप अगर सिंगल टेंडर 25,000 तक का है तो आप अपना एक सर्टिफिकेशन दीजिए, 25,000 के ऊपर का है तो आप एक कमेटी उनको बनवा दीजिए, उनके एचओडी को उनको एडवाइस कर दीजिए, या आपके प्रिंसिपल हैं उनको कर दीजिए, या रजिस्ट्रार हैं या वाइस चांसलर उनको अथॉरिटी दीजिए कि सर एज पर दिस रूल ए परचेज, सिंस द परचेज इज मोर देन 25,000, इसलिए ए परचेज कमेटी शुड बी कंस्टिट्यूटेड। अब 25,000 से डाल, अगर 2.5 लाख के ऊपर अगर जनरल है, अगर और जेम पे अगर 5 लाख के ऊपर जा रहा है, तो आप उनको कहिए कि कंपलसरी बिडिंग में जाइए। और अगर 2.5 लाख से ऊपर अगर वो जेम पे अवेलेबल नहीं है, देन आस्क देम टू गो फॉर द बिडिंग। बिडिंग में आप देख लीजिए वो बिड सिक्योरिटी है कि नहीं, टेंडर डॉक्यूमेंट स्पेसिफिक है कि नहीं, आप उनको एडवाइस कीजिए। कोई ऐसा कंडीशंस तो नहीं बना डाल दिया गया है जो रेस्ट्रिक्ट करें, रीजनेबल टाइम दिया गया है कि नहीं वो देख लीजिए। ये सारा चीज आप बैठ करके एडवाइस कीजिए। उसके बाद जब टेंडर का टेंडर एक होते, ट्रांसपेरेंसी होती है, सारे कमिटी मेंबर्स को कहिए कि जब टेंडर खुलता है तो दे मस्ट बी प्रेजेंट इन दैट। और उसके बाद जो इन्वेलप अगर सील करके आया हुआ है, मान लीजिए ओपन टेंडर है, सील्ड है तो प्रॉपर्ली सील्ड है कि नहीं, जो टाइम फ्रेम के अंदर आया है कि नहीं, टाइम के बाद लेट बिड इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल, लेट बिड है उनको रिजेक्ट कर दीजिए। इन्वेलप पे सबका साइन लीजिए कमेटी मेंबर्स का, जो अगर उनके रिप्रेजेंटेटिव आए हुए हैं कमेटी का, अदर देन जेम की बात कर रहे हैं, उनका अटेंडेंस सीट बनवा लीजिए, हो सके तो वीडियोग्राफी करवा लीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। तो कंप्लीट उसका डॉक्यूमेंट्स को एनालाइज करिए, देख लीजिए कि कोई फालतू कंडीशंस के चलते, जो ऐसा कंडीशंस है जो कि फुलफिल कर नहीं कर पा रहा, तो उसके चलते आप रिजेक्ट ना कर दे। जो मैंडेटरी कंडीशंस है और जो कंडीशंस आपने टेंडर डॉक्यूमेंट्स में डाला है, उसको के आधार पे अगर जो फुलफिल नहीं करता, देन यू रिजेक्ट दैट टेंडर। और स्पेसिफिक रीजन मस्ट बी गिवन इन द रिकमेंडेशन कि ड्यू टू दिस डिफिशियंसी their tender cannot be considered and they are technically not accepted. आप जब technically accept करते हैं, फिर उनका एक तरीका कहता है कि आप वेबसाइट पर डाल दीजिए या उनको खबर कर दीजिए किसी तरह से कि इनके कितना टेक्निकल हो गए, उसके बाद फिर तब आप फाइनेंशियल बिड खोलिए। जेम पे तो खुद ब खुद बिडिंग हो जाता है। अगर प्राइस आपको रिजनेबल नहीं लगता है तो रिवर्स ऑक्शन में चले जाइए, लेकिन एवरीथिंग परचेज शुड बी, पहले चीजें लोगों ने क्या कहा था कि एस्टिमेटेड कॉस्ट नहीं रखते हैं, तो जो भी आपकी प्रोक्यूरमेंट एंटिटी है उनको बताइए कि आप कहीं से भी टेक द एस्टिमेटेड कॉस्ट, और एस्टिमेटेड कॉस्ट के आधार पे आप प्राइस रीजनेबिलिटी एस्टैब्लिश कीजिए। दैट आई हैव ऑब्जर्व्ड इन सेवरल फाइल्स in my last 20 years tenures in central organization, कि they are not writing to what is the estimated price and reasonability of price, so that must be established कि what is the price is as quoted by vendor is reasonable, that is acceptable। ये होता है कि आप अगर एस्टिमेटेड कॉस्ट जानते हैं या कहीं से भी मार्केट से लेते हैं तो मार्केट सरने के बाद आप यू हैव टू टेक द एस्टिमेटेड कॉस्ट, ईएमडी अमाउंट वगैरह वो रख लीजिए। जब अवार्ड हो जाता है तो L1 को अवार्ड कर दीजिए। L1 अवार्ड करने के बाद आप देख लीजिए कोई सही है कि कॉम्पिटेंट है कि नहीं। अगर इफ L1 अवार्ड मान लीजिए कि बहुत ज्यादा बल्क में है और वो सप्लाइंग करता है तो L1 रेट पे ही दूसरे को दिए। जनरली कहा जाता है कि टेंडर शुड बी अवार्डेड टू द लोएस्ट वन बिडर, बट इफ द बिडर अगर नहीं बाय करता है, निगोशिएशन इज नॉट परमिसिबल अंडर एनी सर्कमस्टांस। उसके बाद नाउ यू हैव टू इन टेंडरिंग प्रोसेस यू हैव टू द फॉलो सेंट्रल विजिलेंस गाइडलाइंस, वो ट्रांसपेरेंसी इन टेंडरिंग सिस्टम दे हैव issued several guidelines, go through the tendering process, transparency in tendering system। तो अगर इस तरह से आप करते तो यू विल बी ए साउंड प्रूफ, योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल बी ए साउंड प्रूफ। अगर आप अपने आप को यू आर नॉट वर्किंग फॉर योर ओन सेल्फ, आपकी एक गलती से पूरा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फंस सकता है और बदनाम हो सकता है, तो दैट मस्ट बी सीन। इसलिए फाइनेंस एक ऐसी चीज है कि इसकी कोई माफी नहीं है। अभी जस्ट मुझे एक मैसेज आया सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ हरियाणा में कहीं कुछ फंड का डाइवर्सन हुआ, रजिस्ट्रार फाइनेंस ऑफिसर एवरीवन हैज बीन सस्पेंडेड, कल की बात है। तो बड़े लोगों को तो आपका सबसे पहला चीज है कि आपका आईक्यू और आपकी सोचने की क्षमता और डिसिसिव कैपेसिटी दैट मस्ट बी स्ट्रांग। तो अपनी डिसिसिव कैपेसिटी कीजिए, अपने नॉलेज को गेन कीजिए, अपना प्लानिंग कीजिए और अपना एक्यूरेसी मेंटेन करके चलिए। नाउ कम टू द थर्ड पॉइंट। अभी तो बस्टिंग पे हमारा थे, नहीं का रिसोर्स मोबिलाइजेशन। आप कितना रिसोर्स जनरेट कर रहे हैं और कैसे जनरेट करके, दैट यू हैव टू मेक प्लान and you have to see, since you are in educational institution, अगर आपको लगता है कि बच्चों से सफिशिएंट फीस नहीं आ रही है, आप मैनेजमेंट को कहिए कि सर फ्रॉम द टाइम बीइंग हमारा रिसोर्स मोबिलाइज नहीं हो पा रहा है, आप इसकी फंडिंग को बढ़ाइए, बच्चों के फीस को डे बाय डे बढ़ाइए। गवर्नमेंट प्रेशराइज करे कि अपना ग्रांट को कम करे और आप इंटरनल रेवेन्यू जनरेशन को रिव्यू करे। तो IRR जनरेट करने का, जिसको बोलते हैं इंटरनल रेवेन्यू जनरेशन रिसोर्सेज, आप इसको बढ़ाने का कोशिश कीजिए। लोगों को कहिए कंसल्टेंसी लाए, प्रोजेक्ट लेके आए, यूनिवर्सिटी शेयर या कॉलेज शेयर ऑफ ओवरहेड प्रोजेक्ट अकाउंट बनाइए, उससे जो पैसा लाइए तो लैबोरेटरीज वगैरह का डेवलपमेंट में लगाइए, टीचर्स वगैरह का सेमिनार कॉन्फ्रेंसेस कर रहे हैं उनको जाने दीजिए, इंटरनेशनल ट्रैवल पे जा रहे हैं उनको कोशिश कीजिए, पेटेंट्स का पैसा दीजिए, कॉपीराइट्स का पैसा दीजिए। तो इससे आपकी नैक रैंकिंग भी बढ़ेगी, वर्ल्ड यूनिवर्सिटी रैंकिंग भी बढ़ेगी, QSS रैंकिंग भी बढ़ेगी और आपको रेवेन्यू भी जनरेट करना पड़ेगा, रेवेन्यू भी जनरेट होगा। तो रिसोर्स जनरेशन के लिए ऑलवेज सोचिए। तीसरा होता है कि कभी आप देखिए कि सबसे बड़ा एक इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन होता है। इन्वेस्टमेंट, अगर आपको लगता है कि सरप्लस फंड हो रहा है तो लोग ऐसे हैं कह रहे बैंक में पड़ा हुआ तो पड़ा हुआ है पैसा मेरा आया हुआ है, तो मेक ए प्लान। आप एक प्लान बनाइए कि हमको अगले 2 महीने जो आपको फीस आया, फीस तो आपको 2 समय आता है, एक या तो जनवरी में आएगा या जुलाई में आएगा। अब आपके पास मान लीजिए 50 करोड़ रुपया आ गया है, 100 करोड़ रुपया आ गया, अभी आपको इमीडिएट जरूरत नहीं है, आपको ग्रांट भी आ रही है मिनिस्ट्री से या UDC से, तो आप एक प्रॉपर सिस्टमेटिक प्लान कीजिए कि इमीडिएटली देखिए कि अभी हमको 2 महीने का 3 महीने का क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है। तो जितना व्हाट एवर सरप्लस अमाउंट इज देयर यू शुड इन्वेस्ट इन फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट। सेविंग्स बैंक पे आपको 3% 3.5% मिलेगा, फिक्स डिपॉजिट में आपको कोई बैंक 7% दे रहा है, कोई 6% दे रहा है, कोई 5% दे रहा है। आप रेट कार्ड इनवाइट कीजिए, एक कमेटी बना लीजिए, कमेटी से रिकमेंडेशंस करा करके कि सिंस वी आर हैविंग द सरप्लस फंड ऑफिस which we don't require within 2 to 3 months or 3 to 4 months like that, as such to generate resources, to generate revenue, you must invest in that bank which is offering highest rate of interest. तो ये आपका प्लानिंग है कि always keep एक आई व्यू ऑन योर फंडिंग पोजीशन। आप बैंक से टाइम टू टाइम मंगा लीजिए, अपना मंथली रिक्वायरमेंट देख लीजिए, प्रीवियस एक्सपेंडिचर का। जैसे सपोज मेरे पास अगर फीस से आ गया 10 करोड़ रुपया आ गया और हम देख रहे हैं कि 2 करोड़ रुपया मेरे को ग्रांट भी एवरी मंथ आ रहा है और मेरा रिक्वायरमेंट 2.5 करोड़ का है, तो 50 लाख रुपया 3 महीना का रख करके 8.5 करोड़ रुपया हम इन्वेस्टमेंट कर देंगे। 6 महीना का अगर आप इन्वेस्टमेंट कर देते हैं तो 50 लाख 60 लाख रुपया 1 करोड़ रुपया आपको रेवेन्यू इंटरेस्ट से जनरेट हो जाता है। तो आपको अपने बैंक के भी फंड पे आपका जो रेवेन्यू क्या जनरेट आ रहा है, बच्चों से फीस क्या आ रही है, आपका एंटिसिपेटेड एक्सपेंडिचर कितना दिन का है, तो मेक ए प्रॉपर प्लानिंग एंड ट्राई टू इन्वेस्ट दोज अमाउंट इन फिक्स डिपॉजिट। हम लोग हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ये करते हैं। मैं एक एग्जांपल बताता, वन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन दैट वाज द फ्राइडे, आई हैव गॉट 65 crore rupees from UGC and neither the vice chancellor was there nor the finance officer was there. 5 days the university was closed. Immediately I contacted to the bank, all the banks. At 7 p.m. I've invested that amount, and when their requirement has come after 10 days, I have got 45 lakhs on that amount. That amount, the vice chancellor was very pleased. That is the effective planning. So you have to monitor from where you are getting the funds, what is your fund position, what is your actual requirement. Don't slip कि बस कि जस्ट ये मेरा खर्चा हो रहा है, हमको फाइनेंस कंट्रोल करना है। आपको यू हैव टू मेक द प्रॉपर प्लानिंग फ्रॉम वेयर माय फंड इज कमिंग, वेयर आई हैव टू इन्वेस्ट, वेयर व्हाट आई हैव टू डू। So that must also be closely monitored. That is also one of the important decisions of yours. आपकी जब जरूरत पड़े शॉर्ट टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट रखिए, बड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट रखिए, उनसे रेवेन्यू जनरेट कीजिए, and that revenue can be utilized. That is your internal resource generation. Now come expenditure control that I have already read. You first make a budget control register, closely monitor that expenditure. You just see UGC is asking every month a details of expenditure in major heads. What you are incurring in salary head, what is recurring में उन लोगों ने they have issued a format. So that format is just not for infantry, that is also for control of expenditure. You just see that format, you all must have that format. और कॉलेजेस को नहीं है तो सारे कॉलेज वो फॉर्मेट यूनिवर्सिटी से ले ले या यूजीसी से मंगवा ले। हम लोग एवरी मंथ we are submitting that information to the UGC, as well as that information is available on the UGC website. They ask the data to fill कि what is your expenditure, and that can be monitored. So just you can see कि what expenditure is incurring in each head of expenditure, and that is also the best way to control the expenditure. Now accounting, reporting and auditing. Now first is you must keep in your mind that anyhow our account has to be closed on or before 31st March. So ये whatsoever the amount has been already been utilized, just book it in the expenditure. Properly accounting बनवाइए, कैश बुक को क्लोज कीजिए। 31 मार्च को 10 बजे रात तक क्लोज करना पड़े, 10 बजे रात तक क्लोज कीजिए। कोशिश कीजिए कि लास्ट मंथ रस ना हो, क्योंकि ऑडिट जब भी होती है आपको 12 महीने का एक्सपेंडिचर डिटेल मांगती है। आप लोगों ने देखा होगा जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में 12 महीने का डिटेल्स ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर मांगती है, और जिस महीने में सबसे ज्यादा एक्सपेंडिचर होता है उस महीने को ऑडिट करने के लिए उठा लेती है। तो जिस महीने में आप अगर लास्ट मंथ रस एक्सपेंडिचर किए हैं, या हर कोई ऑब्जर्व किया लेकिन किसी ध्यान नहीं देते हैं लोग, तो कोशिश आपका ये रहना चाहिए कि मार्च महीने के एक्सपेंडिचर को कर्टेल करके जनवरी, दिसंबर, जनवरी में ले आइए। और अगर ज्यादा एक्सपेंडिचर अचानक से आप सारा एक्सपेंडिचर एक ही पर्टिकुलर महीने में बुक करेंगे तो गलतियां होने की संभावना बहुत ज्यादा रहती है। लास्ट मंथ में जैसे तैसे कर दो, इसको पेमेंट कर दो कि फंड यूटिलाइज करना है। आप ना तो देखेंगे कि उसके सपोर्टिंग वाउचर्स है कि नहीं, टोटलिंग है कि नहीं, टैक्स गलत कटा है, ये सारा चीज होने की संभावनाएं बहुत ज्यादा रहती है। तो आप अकाउंटिंग है, आपको धीरे धीरे काम करना है, संभल के करना है, कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि जल्दबाजी के कारण में गड़बड़ी हो जाए। तो बेहतर है कि स्लोली स्लोली आप दिसंबर के महीने से पकड़ लीजिए, नवंबर दिसंबर के महीने से पकड़ लीजिए, कि सारा एक्सपेंडिचर बुक करने का कोशिश कीजिए और सारा अकाउंट्स को ले लीजिए, ताकि आप ऑडिट के भी नजर से बचे और आप सेफ भी रहें और अच्छे से सारा चीज मैनेज भी कर सके। तो अकाउंट बुक्स को क्लोज करवाइए, ब्लैंक को मंथली रिकॉन्साइल कीजिए। कोई एडवर्स आपको नजर आता है तो प्लीज कॉन्टैक्ट योर बैंक इमीडिएटली और आस्क देम टू रेक्टिफाई। अभी बैंक भी बहुत सारा गलत करते हैं, बैंक कितना उसका आपको बैंक चार्जेस वगैरह काट रहे हैं, हर मंथ आप रिकॉर्ड कर लीजिए उसको। तो बेस्ट हम कहेंगे, मैं कहूँगा इट इज माय सजेशन कि प्रिपेयर द बैंक रिकॉन्सिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट एवरी मंथ ऑफ ईच एंड एवरी बैंक। और पहला चीज, ईच एंड व्हाट इज द ईच एंड एवरी अमाउंट आइदर रिसीव्ड, ये भी देखने में आया कि कुछ लोग अकाउंट खोल कर रख लेते हैं यूनिवर्सिटी के नाम से, कॉलेज के अकाउंट से, और वो आपके अकाउंटिंग में नहीं आता, बाद में पकड़ में आता है तो ये नहीं लिया गया है। तो इट मस्ट बी रिपेमेंट कि फाइनेंस क्या कहता है, ईच एंड एवरी रुपीज either received or spent on behalf of your organization, that must be properly recorded. Please remember this thing. Each and every rupees received or spent on behalf of or in the name of the organization must be properly recorded in the books of account. No one should be permitted to open any account without the authority, और दैट शुड बी, और वो प्रॉपरली हैंडल। तो अगर कोई लेते हैं तो ही हैज टू सबमिट द डिटेल्स एंड गिव द क्लैरिफिकेशन कि वो क्यों ले रहे हैं, कैसे ले रहे हैं अकेले। तो ये आप लोग स्ट्रिक्टली करेंगे, किसी को भी परमिशन नहीं देंगे। और अकाउंट्स पब्लिक या जिनको भी डेलीगेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पावर्स मिला हुआ है, ओनली दे आर ऑथराइज्ड। और दूसरा ये चीज है, सबसे बड़ी चीज है कि ईच एंड एवरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मस्ट गिव डेलीगेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पावर। एवरीवन कैन नॉट बी गिवन द फाइनेंशियल पावर डेलीगेशन। और जनरली चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर, आइदर ही मे बी प्रिंसिपल और आइदर मे बी वाइस चांसलर, और इज द मेन एंड सोल कंट्रोलिंग अथॉरिटी ऑफ द फाइनेंस। However, he delegates his power to subordinate authorities. और अगर किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में किसी को भी डेलीगेशन नहीं है तो गवर्निंग बॉडी से उनके फाइनेंशियल पावर, उनके लिमिट को डेलीगेट करवाइए। और उनको डेलीगेट करवा करके, जैसे किसको डीआर को क्या पावर है, एआर को क्या पावर है, एफओ को क्या पावर है, रजिस्ट्रार को क्या पावर है, सेक्शन ऑफिसर्स को क्या पावर है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ऑफिसर्स को क्या पावर है, दैट मस्ट बी प्रॉपरली नोटिफाइड। नो वन शुड, अगर फाइलिंग सिस्टम क्या होती है, अगर आपको डेलीगेशन नहीं है तो आप अपने फाइल पे अपने ऑब्जर्वेशन लिखिए और उनसे ऑथोरिटी ले करके उनका अप्रूवल दे के देन ओनली मेक द पेमेंट और रिलीज द एडवांस। सबसे बड़ी एक चीज नजर आती है हमको अभी सब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कि डिपार्टमेंटल हेड और या जो भी चीज हो, जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, एडवांस ले लेते हैं या किसी पार्टी को एडवांस दे देते हैं और वो सेटल नहीं करवाते हैं, तो और आपके बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट में आ रहा है, तो इट मस्ट बी इंश्योर्ड, इट इज ऑल्सो द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर से, और whosoever is looking after the finance, कि to write a letter or to direct that person to settle the advance immediately. Rule 323 says कि अगर कोई एडवांस सेटल नहीं करता है within 15 days, ऑफ द इनकरिंग द एक्सपेंडिचर, और जो अमाउंट स्पेंड कर दिए हैं तो आप उनकी सैलरी से रिकवर करिए। ये चीज को आप सारे लोगों को बताइए, सारे लोगों को कहिए कि सर अगर एडवांस आप सेटल नहीं करते हैं, इट विल बी रिकवर्ड फ्रॉम योर सैलरी, और यू स्टार्ट रिकवरिंग बट विद ड्यू अप्रूवल ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल और द अदर अथॉरिटी, आपको एडवांस सेटल हो जाएगा। कोई एडवांस 5-5 साल, 10-10 साल, 2 साल, 1 महीना नहीं रहना चाहिए। ये यू मस्ट बी इंश्योर्ड। एलटीसी का क्लेम है, आप देख रहे हैं कि एलटीसी का जो रूल है वो आप रूल फॉलो अप कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, आप ऑथराइज से जो ट्रैवल एजेंट्स उससे बुकिंग कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, लोएस्ट फेयर का लगा रहे हैं कि नहीं, बोर्डिंग पास इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है तो लगा रहे हैं कि नहीं, ये सारा चीज इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आप निकाल करके दे रहे हैं कि आपने जर्नी परफॉर्म किया है, तो एवरीथिंग शुड बी चेक्ड, और वो सारे लोगों को आपको बताना पड़ेगा। हो गया क्या? ठीक है, ले ले क्या 3-5 मिनट। ठीक है, तो आपको एलटीसी का रूल्स का आप देख लीजिए सारा चीजें। तो उसके बाद फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में एक और चीज सबसे बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि आप देखिए सैलरी मस्ट बी पेड टाइमली। अननेसेसरी डिले कॉजेज कंफ्यूजन, और एक लोगों का डिस्ट्रेस होता है, एक डिस्ट्रेस होता है। सैलरी आप मॉनिटर कीजिए कि हर महीने की अंतिम डेट को, अगर वो सैटरडे संडे है तो एक दिन पहले दीजिए, कोशिश कीजिए कि उस दिन आप इंश्योर करिए कि सैलरी उनकी टाइमली चली जाए। और उनका दूसरा, अगर लेकिन मार्च की सैलरी ऑलवेज अप्रैल में पे होती है, फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ अप्रैल में आप कर दीजिए। पेंशन का पैसा टाइमली चला जाए, इसको इंश्योर कीजिए। आउटसोर्सिंग स्टाफ है जो फुल्ली हुआ, फुल्ली डिपेंडेंट ऑन सैलरी और अदर आपका इनकम जो देते हैं, जिससे उनका ब्रेड एंड बटर चलता है, तो आपका एक नैतिक जिम्मेवारी होती है, एक सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होती है कि हम उनका पेमेंट टाइमली करें। आप वो पैसा को उनको आउटसोर्सिंग स्टाफ का कोशिश कीजिए बिल वगैरह प्रोसेस करके फर्स्ट वीक में आप रिलीज कर दीजिए। गार्ड रहते हैं, माली रहते हैं, दे आर लोएस्ट पेड एम्प्लॉइज, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 मिलता है, तो दैट मस्ट बी ए फाइनेंस गुड फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर का काम है उनके तनख्वाह को, उनके पैसे को टाइमली दें। और जो आप आउटसोर्सिंग एजेंसीज हैं उन पे भी कहें कि आप इनके पैसा को टाइमली दीजिए, टाइमली रिलीज कीजिए। ये एक और चीज मुझे बहुत कॉमन नजर आई है कि हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हम पूछते हैं जब किसी भी आउटसोर्सिंग स्टाफ का सैलरी को कि भाई तुम लोगों का पीएफ का क्या स्टेटमेंट है, नहीं है, इट शुड नॉट से आई लाइक दैट, लेकिन मेरे को मन में कभी कभी होता है कि आप उनका पता करवाइए कि वो उन लोगों का प्रोविडेंट फंड टाइमली जमा कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, पीएफ का स्टेटमेंट उनको दे रहे हैं। हमसे पैसा ले लेते हैं वो लोग, जो एम्प्लॉयर कंट्रीब्यूशन होता है वो हमसे ले लेते हैं, ईएसआई का वो जमा नहीं करते हैं। ये कॉमन लैप्सेस नजर आया है, तो आप विजिल रहिए, उनको कहिए कि आप जो पैसा जमा करते हो उसकी चालान हमको दे दे, हमको वेरीफाई करें और रैंडमली दे ले। ये आपकी नैतिक जिम्मेवारी, मैं समझता हूं कि नैतिक जिम्मेदारी होनी चाहिए, उनको देखिए। उसके बाद हमने ये कहा कि आप एनपीएस का पैसा, अगर हम कहे कि कहीं मेरे यहाँ भी हो रहा था जिसको आप तो चेक हुआ है, एनपीएस का पैसा क्या है, हर दिन के यूनिट पे डिपेंड करता है। मेरा एनपीएस आप 30 तारीख को कर लिए हैं और आप पैसा 20 तारीख को जमा कर रहे हैं, व्हाट इज दिस? अगर आप एक सप्ताह के अंदर क्यों नहीं जमा कर रहे हैं? उसमें क्या कि आज यूनिट का वैल्यू 20 रुपया है जिसपे मेरा यूनिट परचेज हो रहा है, अब 20 तारीख को जमा कीजिए, वही यूनिट का वैल्यू 40 रुपया होगा, तो अल्टीमेट लूजर कौन हुए? हम हुए यूजर। तो आपको ये भी चेक करना है कि व्हाटसोएवर द कंट्रीब्यूशन इज डिडक्टेड दैट मस्ट बी डिपॉजिटेड टाइमली। और मैंने जैसा कहा कि इनकम टैक्स अगर नहीं जमा करते हैं, नेक्स्ट डे से 1% पर मंथ आपको फाइन लगना शुरू होता है। कौन पे करेगा? तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर की ड्यूटी है कि बुला करके पूछे कि आप उनको डेडलाइन बना दीजिए, बताइए, चेकलिस्ट बनाइए कि आप इस तारीख तक जमा क्यों नहीं किए हैं। तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मस्ट बी फिक्स। जनरली अवॉइडेंस होता है, सर जमा करेंगे ना, फिर इंटरेस्ट आया है तो इंटरेस्ट लेवी हो जाएगा, इनकम टैक्स का नोटिस आता है तो फिर बताते हैं कि सर ऐसा इंटरेस्ट का क्यों आया, वाई। तो ये दिस शुड बी द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर ऑल्सो। ठीक है ना? तो आपका फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन नाउ ए बिकम हैज रिलायबल, आप एक गुड गवर्नेंस डेवलप कीजिए। गुड गवर्नेंस क्या है? गवर्नेंस is the performance of intrinsic nature policy, transparency, and accountability to all its stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders employees हैं, staffs हैं, स्टूडेंट्स हैं और जो आपसे एसोसिएटेड हैं. ये इट इज गवर्नेंस इज ए क्लैरियन कॉल, अंतरात्मा की आवाज है. हम गुड गवर्नेंस, कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अगर होगा, जहां पे भी गुड गवर्नेंस को हम फॉलो करेंगे, दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल फ्लोरिश, और लोग तारीफ करेंगे. अभी हम लोगों का जैसे परचेज डिपार्टमेंट, फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट है, पहले लोगों को शिकायत रहती थी मेरा बिल इतने दिन तक पेमेंट नहीं होता, ये नहीं होता, ये सामान होता नहीं मिलता, वो नहीं मिलता. आज किसी को भगवान के दया से ना परचेज डिपार्टमेंट से शिकायत है, ना हम लोगों के फाइनेंस से शिकायत है, जिसको भी होते. और दूसरा एक चीज है कि अपने आप को डोंट ओवर थिंक दैट आई एम द बॉस ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. आप लोगों से मिलिए, उनके जब चीजों को समझिए. बेस्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कौन होता है? हु इज द बेस्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन? हु लिसन्स एवरीवन, और पेशेंसली सुनता है, कोशिश करता है कि उनके प्रॉब्लम को रिजॉल्व करे, कोशिश करे कि उनके प्रॉब्लम को रिजॉल्व हो. टाइमली यूटिलाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट सबमिट कीजिए. यूटिलाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट जो प्रॉपर फॉर्मेट है, जनरल फाइनेंशियल रूल GFR 19A में दिया हुआ है. आप हम लोगों को तो यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम में क्वार्टरली जमा करना है. आप क्वार्टरली जो टाइमलाइनेस है, आप उस क्वार्टर जैसे अप्रैल मई जून का होता है, जुलाई 10 तक करना है. कोशिश कीजिए कि सारा यूटिलाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट टाइमली जमा कीजिए. कॉलेजेस शायद ईयरली जमा करते हैं, अपना ईयरली जमा कर दे सारे यूटिलाइजेशन सर्टिफिकेट को. अकाउंट्स रिकॉर्ड्स पूरा प्रॉपरली मेंटेन करें. इस तरह से आप करेंगे तो यू विल बी ए गुड फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. थैंक यू वेरी मच. हो गया संदीप? मेरा टाइम भी खत्म हो गया. 2:15 से 3:15 है ना.
सर आपने बिल्कुल एग्जैक्ट टाइम पे खत्म किया है. थैंक यू सो मच सर.
नहीं, टाइम यहाँ देख रहे थे, घड़ी भी देख रहे थे.
जी, आई होप यू वर एबल टू कवर व्हाट यू हैड थॉट.
ठीक है बॉस. अब नियम थोड़ी ना पढ़ाना है हमको, नियम जिसको पढ़ना है पढ़ेगा. आप बताइए.
क्वेश्चन है कि जब हमें एलपीजी एडवांस की कोई रिक्वेस्ट जाती है एम्प्लॉय की,
हाँ.
तो अभी क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने रूल बदले हैं कि 21 दिन पहले उनको इंसिस्ट कीजिए कि वो बुकिंग कर ले अपनी टिकट्स की. तो हम एडवांस कितने दिन पहले तक दे सकते हैं? लाइक अभी किसी ने जैसे दिसंबर के लिए बुकिंग कर दी 21 दिन से बहुत पहले, अब मुझे वो एडवांस मांग रहे हैं, तो मैं क्या अभी
90% एडवांस देना है तो दे
हाँ,
दीजिए. ठीक है.
अभी जल्दी सर दिसंबर
नहीं नहीं, उससे कोई बात नहीं. वो ठीक है. हमने क्या कहा है, एक्सपेंडिचर इनकर
एनुअल
करनी है,
अकाउंट का
उसके 15 दिन के अंदर में देना है.
हाँ.
ठीक है.
सर एनुअल अकाउंट के बारे में कुछ
बताइए क्या पूछना
एनुअल
चाहते हैं.
सर, वो एनुअल अकाउंट का जो प्रिपरेशन है ना ये वाला, कि कैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा सा ये अगर आप बता देते ना कि इसमें कैसे बनाया जाता है ये एनुअल अकाउंट.
अकाउंट से गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने, हमारे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन ने CAG के साथ फॉर्मेट डेवलप किया है, और फॉर्मेट तो आपके पास होगा ही.
जी
उसके
जी
अकाउंट बनाइए.
जी.
वो सारा हेड ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर, एक एक हेड ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर को क्लैरिफाई कर दिए हैं, उसके हिसाब से बना डालिए. कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उसमें.
जी
तो आपके पास फॉर्मेट नहीं अवेलेबल है क्या?
है सर, है सर.
हाँ तो
इसमें
उस
सर ये
फॉर्मेट
जो जो इनकम एक्सपेंडिचर अकाउंट है ना, जो रिसीव्ड एंड पेमेंट का, इसका थोड़ा अगर बता देते कि कैसे कैसे बनता है.
देखिए, इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर स्टेटमेंट और रिसीट एंड पेमेंट अकाउंट में क्या दिक्कत है कि रिसीट एंड पेमेंट आपको बताता है कि एक्चुअल कैश फ्लो होता है, फंड का फ्लो होता है, इधर रिसीट है या इधर एक्सपेंडिचर है, वो आप लेते हैं. लेकिन इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर स्टेटमेंट बनता है एक्रूअल बेसिस ऑफ अकाउंटिंग पे. मतलब कि आपका अगर पैसा नहीं आया है और लेकिन सैंक्शन हो गया है, आपके पास क्लियर है, तो आप उसको इनकम में ले लेंगे. और एक्सपेंडिचर जैसे आपकी लायबिलिटी भी है, हो गया है, लेकिन आप किसी कारण से 31 मार्च तक पेमेंट नहीं कर चुके हैं, तो दैट एक्सपेंडिचर शुड बी टेकन इन इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर स्टेटमेंट. तो कमिटेड एक्सपेंडिचर, दैट इज कॉल्ड कमिटेड एक्सपेंडिचर. दैट मतलब कि एक्सपेंडिचर यू हैव ऑलरेडी इनकर्ड but payment has not been released, then that is also called as committed expenditure. तो आप इसको ले लेते हैं. और एक्रूअल बेसिस और कैश बेसिस में क्या अंतर है? एक्रूअल बेसिस मतलब कि वो पैसा जमा हो गया है या एक्सपेंडिचर इनकर हो गया है या खर्च हो गया है, लेकिन आप एक्चुअल कैश का फ्लो नहीं हुए हैं, तो दैट इज टेकन इन इनकम. लेकिन रिसीट एंड पेमेंट अकाउंट में होता क्या है कि एक्चुअल कैश फ्लो हुआ है, इसलिए उसको कैश बेसिस ऑफ अकाउंटिंग पे बनाते हैं, और इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर स्टेटमेंट को एक्रूअल बेसिस ऑफ अकाउंटिंग पे बनाते हैं. तो जो भी सरप्लस इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर का होता है, दैट इज ट्रांसफर टू द कैपिटल फंड ऑफ अकाउंट. ठीक है.
ठीक है सर. ओके.
Any other questions from the participants?
यस मैम, यस मैम।
Okay,
सर, क्या हम एयर टिकट अगर किसी अनऑथराइज्ड एजेंसी से बुक किया हो तो उसका रिम्बर्स कर सकते हैं सर,
बिल्कुल नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं।
इन एनी एक्सेप्शनल केस?
नहीं, एक्सेप्शन केसेस नहीं तो आप फिर फाइनेंस आप अपने ले लीजिए, परमिशन लीजिए, कॉम्पिटेंट और उनका जस्टिफिकेशन पूछिए। जस्टिफिकेशन पूछिए, व्हाट वाज द सर्कमस्टेंसेस यू हैव बुक्ड फ्रॉम अनऑथराइज्ड एजेंट।
if competent authority agree to pay,
अगर वो जस्टिफिकेशन देते हैं, आपको लगता है कि जस्टिफिकेशन कोई सर्कमस्टेंसेस ऐसा था जिसमें अनऑथराइज्ड एजेंट से नहीं कांटेक्ट कर पाए थे, देन विद ड्यू अप्रूवल ऑफ द कॉम्पिटेंट अथॉरिटी आप रिम्बर्स करिए, लेकिन देयर मस्ट बी अ प्रॉपर जस्टिफिकेशन।
okay, thank you sir.
Sir, what is this reverse auction?
रिवर्स ऑक्शन कई बार संदीप बताएगा। रिवर्स ऑक्शन जब आपने जेम बिडिंग पे गए हैं और आपको संदीप में बताएंगे, परचेज वाले हैं वो आपको ही विल एक्सप्लेन यू इन डिटेल, वो करते हैं हमेशा रिवर्स ऑक्शन। आप बताओ। वन ऑफ माय परचेज ऑफिसर ही विल एक्सप्लेन यू। बोलो आप लोग, बोलना।
नहीं मैम,
कैमरा मूव कर दूंगा। करो।
I tell you, the reverse auction in common language, in simple language, let me tell you, reverse auction is another chance given to the sellers on a particular bid so that they can revise their bids, even though you get the L1.
Do you understand? नहीं आएगा।
no, it's all right.
सर एक बार दोबारा बताइए प्लीज।
I tell you, just focusing is going on. Reverse auction is a part of the bid process. Fine. You placed a bid, you get the L1. If you opted for proceeding with the reverse auction, that is the option is available at the time of placing bid. Once you have exercised that, you have the option for going for reverse auction. And reverse auction is what? When you get the L1 price, fine, you proceed with the reverse auction. Reverse auction is the another chance to the bidders so that they can again play around with their bids. They can, revise their bids in order to get the L1 once again. And it would be the transparent process that is available to all the bidders. Reverse auction always pays you in heavy quantum, heavy amount of bids. That saves you money a lot because you are giving bidders another chance so that just in case, for example, L2, L1 is of 1 rupee, fine. L2 is there 85 paisa. L3 is of 80 paisa. When the bids are open, and if L2 thinks, boss, maybe 70 paise mein ye product de sakta tha, provided given a chance, that chance is called reverse auction. When you exercise it, they all will be there in the position to place again their revised bids. And that is for the limited period only. You might get very good prices after the end of reverse auction. Maybe 60 paisa may be aa sakta hai, because the bidders are playing around in order to get the contract.
ओके सर, फाइन। सर हम नॉर्मली देखते हैं यूजीसी से जब कोई लेटर्स आते हैं तो नॉर्मली वो लिखते हैं ऑस्टेरिटी मेजर्स में बी एडहर्ड टू। तो सर इसका क्या सिर्फ मतलब यही है, इज इट जुडिशियल यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ फंड्स ओनली?
No, every preventive measure should be taken before incurring any expenditure. Austerity measures means ki every prevention should be taken, not only for fund utilization but everything.
No extravagance.
ओके सर, फाइन।
हेलो सर।
हाँ बताइए।
सर ये लेट डिलीवरी के बारे में आपका क्या ये सुझाव है सर? मैक्सिमम टाइम क्या
हाँ
होता
हाँ
है कि आइटम अगर सप्लाई होता है, मान लीजिए कभी कभी 1 सप्ताह या 2 सप्ताह भी लेट होता है, कभी कभी 2-4 महीने भी लेट करते हैं वेंडर। तो
नहीं,
ये
देखिए आप एक नॉर्मल टेंडेंसी देख लीजिए लोगों का कि
हाँ
कितने दिन में सप्लाई पॉसिबल है, उसी
हाँ
तरह से सप्लाई पीरियड आप लिखिए। अगर नहीं हो, आपको लगता है कि 1 महीने में सप्लाई कर सकता है आराम से, इजिली अवेलेबल होता है, और अभी नहीं करा है, तो उससे बढ़िया पेनाल्टी क्लॉज आप डाल दीजिए। हाँ, लेट
नहीं
डिलीवरी
सर,
क्लॉज।
ये तो पूरा जेम पे अभी हम लोग डालते हैं, तो जेम पे तो हमारा कुछ करने का रहता ही नहीं है ऑप्शन। तो
हाँ,
उसमें कैसे हम लोग ये करें, क्योंकि शेड्यूल डिलीवरी भी जेम ही डिसाइड करता है मैक्सिमम
देखिए एक
टाइम।
नॉर्मल प्रैक्टिस करता क्या है ना, कि कहीं पे भी किसी को आप तुरंत भर में पेनाल्टी क्लॉज लगा दीजिएगा तो एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं होता। तो बेहतर क्या है कि आप उनको स्टार्ट कीजिए राइटिंग ए लेटर अपने क्लॉज का रेफरेंस देते हुए कि आपको इस तक डेट तक सप्लाई करना था, और आपने इस पेनाल्टी क्लॉज के तहत नहीं सप्लाई किया, तो क्यों नहीं आप पे पेनाल्टी लेवी की जाए और ये आपका टेंडर कैंसिल कर दिया जाए। तो आप एक नॉर्मल कोर्स में आप उनको चिट्ठी लिखते रहिए, ताकि उनका अगर जस्टिफिकेशन आता है तो ठीक है, नहीं जस्टिफिकेशन आता है तो एट द टाइम ऑफ पेमेंट अगर वो लगता है कि वो जस्टिफाइड रीजन नहीं दे रहे हैं, तो आप पेनाल्टी काट लीजिए। अगर देते हैं, सप्लाई नहीं देते हैं, तो टेंडर कैंसिल कर दीजिए और उनको
कभी
पेनलाइज कीजिए।
नहीं सर,
कहिए कि
मतलब कभी कभी हमारा इतना कम दाम, सपोज 500 रुपए का भी कोई सामान है तो हम जेम से खरीद रहे हैं। अब
हाँ,
उसमें क्या हुआ कि शेड्यूल डिलीवरी डेट जेम ने डिसाइड किया है कि 30 तारीख तक देना है, वो बंदा हमें 1 महीना बाद दे रहा है, तो उसमें हम क्या जरूरी है कि हमें काटना
तो देखिए दो तीन चीज जेम में है कि
है?
अगर छोटा सा है, या तो आपको रिजेक्शन का भी पावर है। खराब
हम्म
मटेरियल दे रहा है तो आप रिजेक्शन कर दीजिए, आपके स्टोर में आ भी गया है तो अभी आप
हम्म
रिजेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि मटेरियल नॉट अप टू स्टैंडर्ड, तो हम रिजेक्ट कर रहे हैं। अगर
हम्म
इस तरह से पेनाल्टी क्लॉज लगा तो जेम में डाल दीजिए कि आपको हम टेंडर कैंसिल कर रहे हैं ड्यू टू लेट सप्लाई, डिलेड सप्लाई, रिजेक्ट कर दीजिए उस टेंडर को।
सर ये मैंडेटरी नहीं है ना कि हम उसको लिक्विडिटी चार्ज लगाए ही लगाएं अगर वो लेट कर रहा है? ऐसा कोई मतलब ऑडिट ऑडिट तो इसको लेकर के कुछ क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं क्या कि
नहीं,
आप इनको?
अरे आप तो इसीलिए तो कह रहे हैं कि आप उनको कंटिन्यूअस लेटर लिखिए, लेटर लिखिए, मेल भेजिए कि आपका ये शेड्यूल डेट ऑफ डिलीवरी था, सो फार यू आर नॉट कंप्लाइड इज, तो व्हाई द पेनाल्टी शुड बी लेविड ऑन इट। मतलब कि आप अपने तरफ से कोई कमी आप सो मत जाइए, आप अपने तरफ से कंटिन्यूअस उनको फॉलो अप करते रहिए, ठीक है, ताकि उनको कुछ बोलने का मौका ना मिले। और अगर वो जस्टिफाइड रीजन देते हैं तो जस्टिफाइड रीजन दैट मस्ट बी रिकॉर्डेड इन द फाइल। आप फाइल पे रिकॉर्ड कर लीजिए कि जस्टिफाइड रीजन है। आप जैसे मान लीजिए कोई नेचुरल कैमिटी आ गया, या ट्रक नहीं आ रहा है, या गवर्नमेंट ने बैन कर दिया, या कुछ रास्ता टूटा हुआ है, तो ये नेचुरल होता है भाई, इसमें तो आप नहीं कर सकते हैं। लेकिन अगर जानबूझ करके कोई अवॉइड कर रहा है डिले, और आपके पास वो जस्टिफाइड रीजन नहीं दे रहा है, आप ले भी कीजिए पेनाल्टी जब पेमेंट के समय में
सर हम लोग अपनी
किया
तरफ
जाता है।
इग्नोर कर सकते
मैक्सिमम
हैं?
आप 0.5% पर वीक कर सकते हैं।
हो गई है बस आज लोकल छोड़ो। लेकिन सर मेरे ऐसी अनदर में
ओके
सुनो,
सर,
वो
थैंक यू सर।
बिना कुछ पता चले ना मेरी पे बिल आ जाना कि इसको ले लो जिसको सिखा।
I think now most of you, I think, raised your queries. Are there any more questions for sir? Otherwise, we'll conclude this session now. All right, sir, it looks like that everyone is satisfied with whatever their queries were on. So thank you so much, sir,
Okay,
for
most
coming
welcome.
and being kind every single time you come and talk to the participants. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we are meeting again at 3:30.
3:30.
महेंद्र जी ये माइक्रोफोन और ये ऑफ कर दीजिएगा। We are now just about to begin our second session for today, this third day. We are very happy to have Professor Mukesh Mehlawat with us, who is our Dean Rankings. Now, the nomenclature itself should tell you that it is a kind of a portfolio that's not very traditional in the universities. And I think Professor Mukesh has truly earned that portfolio, in the sense that in his able leadership, we've seen the University of Delhi leapfrog to from 500 and something, now we are 407, I believe, right, in the QS world ranking. So I think that's the best introduction that I can give of Professor Mukesh Mehlawat, that under his able leadership, we have skyrocketed almost 100 points in this table. So he would be talking more about the mechanisms. Rankings have increasingly become very important for all universities, and we should, of course, know more about the mechanisms in which universities are ranked, both from the academic side as well as administrative side. And Professor Mehlawat would be talking more about more to you about that, sir. To you now.
Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction, because I think whatever we have achieved, that is, I think, only because of the entire university. It is not because of any individual asset, but I'm really thankful for all your kind words. Let me start with the presentation. कोई नहीं करो. मैं ऑपरेट कर पाऊंगा यहाँ से? एक मिनट. ठीक है मैम. Okay, so good afternoon again. So the topic which has been given to me is regarding university rankings. So definitely, before coming to the technical part of what the ranking is all about, we have to understand why the rankings are required, what are the associated benefits, as well as some kind of limitations also, because it is something which is having both kind of what you can say viewpoint. Many people are too much against these rankings, and many of the people are assuming that definitely it is one of the way of through which we can actually quantify how any system or any institution is performing. Okay, so let me just start with the very basic idea actually. What are university rankings? Because this is a major thing why we are supposed to understand this topic. Is first thing is we should have a clarity about what are the university rankings is all about. So as you can see that the very opening sentence which I have written is regarding university ranking, that says that university rankings are diverse, imperfect, and influential. So you can see the words which have been used. They themselves shows the kind of a contradiction always we have regarding the ranking. So we have to understand that why they are diverse, imperfect, and as well as the influential in nature. See, if you look at any of the institution, small, big, large, any kind of institution, if you take, always each institution have its own mission, goals, and objectives. It is not like that all the institutions have the similar objective or the similar mission. Every institution have a different mission, different goals, different objective. And definitely considering those objectives, we are supposed to work for that institution. Suppose like right now, if I am University of Delhi, definitely it's at its own objectives, and everybody has to work on those parameters in order to attain those goals. So if you look at any of the institution as an example, if I take any of the institution, you can see that all of us require to do all those activities through which we can attract the right students, definitely talented faculty members, as well as the funding. Okay, now in one way, these three requirements are common across all the universities, because there is none of the university which says that no, I can survive without any of these three. Then how the diversification is there? See, diversification is there in terms of the kind of what you can say the objectives we are having. Like say, suppose if there is a research-based institution, it has totally a different objective, and there is a university which is or which has been developed for the purpose of capturing a large number of population in terms of providing the education, that has a different objective. So you cannot have a similar kind of criteria or parameter through which you can assess these two. So that is why diversification is there. But as far as ranking is concerned, the common parameters are considered across all type of the universities. Okay, so that is why these rankings are capturing something which is diverse, but with the help of what? A common parameter or a common set of parameters actually. Okay. Now, in order to attain the desired goal, we are definitely working too hard. We are means everybody, whether it is a student of the university or the teaching or non-teaching, all of we are working very hard. But how we can communicate this information or how well we are performing, how we can communicate this thing to the common person. Common person means it can be directly the students, the target students for the future, the target faculty members for the future, the target institutions through which we can look for some kind of funding in the future. We have to communicate that thing to these different units. So for that purpose, university comes into the picture. And that is why the role of university, I mean, the university, if you look at as whole, in the recent past, the rankings are playing a major role because of many constraints are there. Okay, which we have to satisfy. Like a basic example, if I give you, there is a fellowship from which we known as the Prime Minister Research Fellowship. That is not, I mean, the students of all the institutions are not eligible. That requires to be a specific rank in the NIRF, then only you are eligible, otherwise you are not eligible. So try to understand everything is now associated with the kind of performance we are having in the actual market of this ranking environment. Okay, so that is why is the basic understanding you have to understand that why it is required and what kind of importance is there. And the next, okay, next thing is rankings are not perfect but useful. Like I have pointed earlier also, why the rankings are not perfect. See, in real life, it is impossible to have anything as perfect. Remember one thing, always beat a ranking or beat any other thing. Even if you buy any kind of product also, always there is a scope of improvement. The same thing is applicable in the case of ranking also. Okay, so if you look at the ranking as a whole, the kind of ranking we are having and the associated, the tables we are having, which provide some kind of information, they are really simple in order to understand, and they communicate a lot of the information which otherwise difficult to manage out. So that is what the usefulness we are having regarding the ranking and the related data set. Okay. But if you look at, like I have pointed out, always there is a kind of what you can say criticism is there, that why this thing has not been taken care properly, or our university is performing on this criteria well, it has a less weightage. These criticisms are always there, but few of the criticism are there for the purpose of actual improvement in the ranking framework. So that is why we have to take the, I mean, all these kind of criticism in a positive sense also. So that is why the ranking are improving over the years. If you go back 5 years back or 10 years back, things are totally different what we are having at present. Okay. Yes, please. Okay.
Mute your microphones. Mahendra ji, mute all कर दीजिए.
Okay. So that is why we have to see this kind of criticism, and the major criticism which you will find in the ranking, any of the ranking, which you will be later on able to understand, the reputation, which is one of the parameter in the ranking, that has a lot of criticism, that how the reputation or the, what you can say, the perception has been captured by the ranking. So that is always have a criticism, and that criticism is over the years try to be controlled out by decreasing, or you can say minimizing the weightage which is given to this particular criteria or this particular parameter actually. Okay, so considering all these kind of limitation which I have discussed with you, we have to understand one thing in mind, that in a present scenario, we cannot survive without the ranking, but we should not consider the ranking as a stand-alone tool. If the moment we will go this as a stand-alone tool, our decision making is always wrong. We have to take this as one of the consideration in conjunction with some other kind of information and the criteria or some other availability of the data which we are having, and then we are supposed to take a decision. So that is a major thing we have to understand, because generally we are of the opinion that, okay, the ranking means it is the final thing. No, it is not a final thing. It is just one of the consideration which you cannot ignore out. You have to take this into the consideration along with what? some other aspects also. And then you have to take any kind of the decision for the betterment of your institution. That is how you have to consider ranking as an important tool. Okay. And the next. Now, rankings are many and not one size fits all. So I will show you later on. There are n number of rankings exist in the market right now because it has itself become a complete market now, because there are so many what you can say players are there, big players, okay, just for making the X kind of ranking or Y kind of ranking. So the major thing we have to understand that despite of the existence of large number of ranking, none of the ranking can claim to be fit in all the requirements. Okay, so you cannot expect, and it is not possible to have any ranking through which you can fit the requirement of all the institution. You can always make the best possible efforts, but if you go one by one mapping that whether it is able to capture X university in all its dimension, that is not possible. You have to understand. So that is why you have to see that which ranking in what context is highlighting my strength point and highlighting my weaknesses, and the other ranking in what context highlighting my strength and my weakness. I can show you the same institution in one ranking is at this level and in another ranking is at this level. There is no what you can say ambiguity in these two rankings. It is just the way the data or the information has been analyzed and has been captured, and that shows the real difference, that how the data is need to be interpreted differently, and we have to consider them through a different perspective rather than a unique kind of perspective. Okay, that is one thing. Now the next thing is ranking are influential. Always, as you can see that ranking are influential, because the moment we say that okay, X institution ranked 1 in the entire globe, that is too much for anybody to impress out or make influential on any kind of requirement. Like say, suppose if I have to apply for any funding, and if I say that okay, I am from top 10% of the institution, that makes a lot of difference. And that is why you can see that in many of the UGC scheme now, they are targeting about okay, that you have to go for first 500 QS ranked institutions only. Try to make out more and more collaboration or kind of research collaboration only for those institutions which fall in this range only. Why is it so? It is just to make what you can say any kind of collaboration with an institution which are actually performing well in one or the other ranking. So that is why it is these rankings are considered as influential. And the next. Okay, now you can see that I would not say that it is a in a way exhaustive list, but majorly the ranking which exists I have incorporated here. Okay, so you can see that there is no single ranking exists. There are multiple ranking exists, and the entire business of the ranking starts somewhere in 2003. The first ranking, I mean officially, although there are some other ways earlier, but officially the first ranking which has been come into picture is in 2003, which we known as the Shanghai ranking. Okay, after that this entire business started, because what they have done, they have tried to map their institutions, a kind of benchmarking exercise they have done with all the what you can say well-established institution from the perspective of perception, because no ranking exists at that time. So whatever the perception the government had, they have tried to make out a mapping, a kind of benchmarking exercise they had done, and they called that ranking initially as the Shanghai ranking, and now a lot of improvement has been done in that also. So what out of this, definitely I will focus on one of the international ranking, that is QS, World University Ranking, and one of the national ranking. National ranking I have not mentioned here. Okay, because here we are just discussing about the international rankings only, and one of the national ranking, that is NIRF. Okay, so that is what my focus area, because we cannot cover all these rankings as such. So one international and one national ranking, I would try to make it out in the possible time frame. Next. Okay, so as you can see from this graphical representation, that in the recent 18 years, ranking has been emerged in both in terms of visibility and prominence. Okay, so and the major reason is that because these are going to influence many aspects of the functioning of the institution. Like few of them I have mentioned here. It try to make out impact on how government measures research excellence of your institution. I have just given you an example of PMRF. Okay, whether an undergraduate or postgraduate student opt for your university or not, because now whenever the students are going for any kind of what you can say selection of one institution over the other, definitely there are other parameters also, like I've told you. Don't go just by ranking, but nowadays ranking is one of the consideration for them also. Okay. And next thing is national international partnership and collaborations, because nowadays in many of the institutions it is strictly prohibited that you have to just do any kind of research collaboration only those with those institutions which falls in a specific range, so that the kind of publication you have, the quality of the publication itself is good. So any kind of collaborative work is going to help you out, not just in terms of number that you are having one publication, but also in terms of its quality also, that yes, it falls in top 10% or top 25% in the database of the Scopus or something, some other kind of databases also. So that is the another reason. And whether a funding invest, any kind of funding body invest in your institution or not. So these are some of the various aspects which forces us to look at that why the ranking are matter to us or for any of the institution. Next, ranking increase your university visibility. This is a well-known fact, because if you ranked in any of the ranking, definitely the kind of what you can say advertisement and everything is there in next 2 or 3 days. So that a kind of total marketing for your institution. You are not doing anything, you are not paying anything, and you can see that the kind of exposure your institution is getting in terms of its visibility across all the corner of the globe. So that is not possible if we put any kind of efforts from our side. So that is why it's increased the visibility. It definitely helps to attract the what you can say international students also, because whenever we opt for any kind of what you can say degree from any other country, the only source at that time to rely on basic understanding of any is through the ranking. Because if I have to go in any other country, I don't have any other mechanism through which I can judge how the institution is performing. Okay, so that is why it is one of the major contribution you can have, okay, for the betterment of your institution if you perform well on the rank.
चले 5-7 मिनट है
Okay, Mahendra, next. Okay. Next thing is, again, still these are some other points which we have to consider. Competition between institutions. See, I'm not saying that a competition is always bad. See, we always have to face a competition starting from our, what you can say, the basic education. And it is not creating any kind of what you can say, and we should not consider that whether it is a right or wrong. It may have both the things, but it actually provides you a platform through which I can actually judge myself that where my lagging are there and where my strong points are there. So definitely in order to have a kind of quality assessment for my institution, I have to go for these kind of ranking, because it provides some mechanism through which a kind of quality check is possible with my peers. Otherwise, which is not possible. Everybody is doing whatever bad or good that remains within the institution only. People are not able to understand how well you are performing or where are they lacking in terms of any of the institution. So that is one thing. Next thing is the performance of the institution. So definitely in order to, improve the performance, we try to make out many of our efforts. So that is one of the tools through which we can see that whatever the efforts we are putting on, whether they are able to make out some improvement in the performance of the institution or not. And the last point is regarding sustenance of the institution, because nowadays I have told you, it will going to be very difficult to sustain if we are not having a reasonable ranking what is expected by any of the funding organization for us, be it a private organization, be it a government organization. Everywhere we require a funding. So from that perspective, survival is a major issue if we don't focus on this part. Next. So let me just start with the QS ranking first, because I have just given you the basic framework that what are the importance of the ranking, why it is required, and what are its limitations and everything. So now we have to just understand that what are the different ranking parameters are there, okay, and how one ranking is different from other. So first I will discuss one of the international ranking agency, that is QS. Okay, so QS is a stand for Siemens. Okay, so this is one of the oldest ranking you can say, because initially QS and TH, have their collaboration and they have started ranking in 2000. But later on, they have split into two different agencies and now they are having their independent, you can say, the analysis or ranking. So I would restrict myself to the कोई direct way नहीं है.
No, who is
Excuse me, sir, ma'am, if you could please mute everybody from your end.
Yes, of course we are. We're also trying to take. All right.
Okay. So see, first of all, we have to just understand that are all the institutions eligible for the ranking? My answer is no. Every ranking has its own requirement. Okay, and they expect that at least this much the institution should have for the consideration of or for the purpose of you can fill for the consideration of the ranking. Okay, so if I am just restricting myself to the QS only, so you can see the very first point, level of offering. It means what is the requirement in terms of level of offering. It means what kind of programs we are offering. So any of the institutions should offer both undergraduate and postgraduate with minimum 3 batches to pass out. So any of the institution which is not meeting this, because there may be a very new institution, na? So that is not eligible as such. Okay, so that is what a basic requirement is. Next is faculty offering. So there is a condition on faculty offering also. So there has to be at least 2 out of these given what you can say faculties which we have mentioned out, like arts and faculty, engineering and technology, life sciences and medicine, natural sciences, social sciences and management. So at least out of this, 2 of them should exist with the institution. Okay. Next is regarding the paper threshold. It means how many publications they are expecting minimum. So for the QS World University ranking, an institution should have at least 100 papers indexed in what? Scopus in last 5 years. So the window is for 5 years. So you should have 100 papers in last 5 years. Okay. So that is one requirement. And one thing you have to understand, only papers of relevant paper type and after affiliation cap is applied, considered. So what is the meaning of this requirement, which I will be going to discuss later on? See, there are many papers with large number of authors. So what they consider, they always consider that in any specific field, like if I take the example of, let us say, mathematical sciences. So they, based upon the average consideration of the total publication in last 5 years, they come out with the number of authors. So they, if their requirement says that the number of authors should be 6 higher side. So any of the publication, if you are having in mathematical sciences with the number of authors more than 6, they would not consider. Like for example, if I take the example of high energy physics. In high energy physics, in one publication, we are having about 2000 plus authors. Okay, so generally these kind of publications, they never consider in the ranking. So 100 publications should be with respect to a reasonable number of authors across all the disciplines. Okay, so all these detailed informations are there. I will show you later on.
So for example, in high energy physics case,
yeah.
In a CERN paper, for example, we
paper.
have these. So what happens if one of our faculties amongst the say first 10 authors? Then how does it get considered?
See, the very first problem which we are having with the CERN, actually, they always go by with the consideration of the first author only. Only with the consideration of the first author. Like say, suppose if I search the publication with respect to University of Delhi, then in that search we are never having the number of publication with respect to the high energy physics. If I have to go for that, I have to search specifically by name of that faculty member who has worked in that area. Then I would be able to map all those publications in this scope. So these are the few things which we have to work out. And I'm not saying it is bad actually. It is just the requirement I'm talking about. Okay, because working in a collaboration is not a bad thing. I'm not making any such kind of interpretation through this. I'm just making out that what is their understanding, because on an average, this is that if on an average in physics, these are the number of authors. So if any of the area of the physics is having a large number of authors, or it has been what you can say deviated too much towards the positive side, they say that it is better to have a normalization, and for the purpose of normalization, they exclude those papers, because the 2000, like if I take the example of 2000 authors, so you can understand 2000 authors means how many institutions. So it is going to be normalized, na? So it is excluding from my university, so it is also excluding from Y university, Z university, So everyone is ultimately at what? Same level. Okay, so that is the only reason, because otherwise we always say that, okay, I am publishing with just 2 authors, these many number of papers. Other institution is publishing on an average with 1,000 number of authors. So that is something what not reasonable. So that is why these kind of
papers that CERN comes out with, it needs that kind of a data.
Yeah,
whenever they are
I agree. I'm not saying that in that there is any kind of wrong, because the kind of work they are doing,
Yes.
it actually requires this kind of existence of this kind of collaboration. But the problem is that I have told you now, they are trying to make it out a tool through which they can have a standard ranking which can fit across all. They never able to do this. Never. It is not possible to have fit in all. That is not possible. They are trying to make it out to the best possible extent. So whenever they are doing any such kind of change, it is going to be impact in one field or in one institution, but we have to go, because ultimately it is applying across all the institutions. So none of them is losing anything in a way. Okay, so that is one thing. The next thing is the regional bar. So this is also one of the requirements. So according to the regional bar, this says that if an institution is eligible to appear in any of our regional rankings, because QS have both that kind of ranking. One is the World University ranking as well as the Asia ranking. I mean the regional rankings also. So it must demonstrate performance in the top 50% of the regional ranking. So if you are not in the top 50%, then otherwise also you are not eligible to be in the World University ranking. So these are some requirements. And the next requirement is the academic reputation, that says that any of the new entrant should be in the global top 30%. Okay, so they are having their own requirements. Okay, and definitely the moment I will shift from one ranking to another, these requirements are changing. Okay, so right now I'm just considering on the QS World University ranking.
By academic reputation, global reputation.
See, by global reputation means actually they are having their, because they are considering only these parameters are applicable for those new entrants for which they are having some kind of ranking, actually, like regional ranking. They are participating. Like suppose I may eligible for a regional ranking, but I may not eligible for a World University ranking. So if my data is there with the regional ranking, on the perception part, it should be at least 30% bracket. If I am not in the top 30%, then still I am not eligible to consideration in the World University ranking. Okay, so it means regionally I may be good, but for the consideration, so that is why they are having a kind of criteria of top 30% kind of in terms of the perception, because otherwise they are the actually loser if they go in a broader sense, if they are not able to perform within the regional, the perception part. Well, so that is why, just to make it out, what you can say, a fair kind of opportunity across all the institutions. Okay, so next thing is the now sometimes we are also of the opinion that two institutions are not comparable, because in one institution you are having a large number of students, in the another institution you are having a less number of students. So that thing has also been taken care here. So they are having regarding the small institution, they are having a different kind of screening criteria, which says that if an institution is of small size, let us say less than 5,000 students, then they simply look at only 3 aspects. You can see there, they don't consider other things which we have discussed so far. They only say that we look at the performance in academic reputation, employer reputation. So both these are the academic reputation and employer reputation are a kind of perception which we have just discussed, and the citation per faculty. They are not taking any other thing into the consideration because the university is too small. So just to make it a more balance out with a large institution, they are having this kind of consideration. So they can be considered for the ranking provided any of the 3 conditions which should be satisfied. Okay. Next, Mandir. Now look at this is the revised methodology for the QS ranking. Okay, because so if you look at the very first, academic reputation 30%, employer reputation 15%. Earlier it was 15 totality. Now it is coming out to be 45%. So you can see 45% of your score is based upon something for which you are not required to provide any data. They are not relying for any kind of information from the institution for this 45%. Although they are asking, they every time ask to provide at least 400 contexts regarding the employers, as well as in terms of the academicians. They always ask from you, but whether they will actually ask for any kind of survey from them or not, that entirely depends upon their own mechanism. Because every year they are creating a pool, they are increasing their pool every year by asking every time 400 from the institution. So they are having a large pool of the what you can say, the availability of the employers and the availability of the academicians, and then they send the emails randomly to any of the randomly 20% of them. So it means although we are providing the data, but we don't know whether any of the email will actually go or not. That is not under your control. So that is why in a way almost 50% is totally out of your control. So this is only possible to make it out best if we are actually having a kind of perception across the group. Okay, because they are not having any big thing in the questionnaire. They simply ask, okay, on this parameter, write down top 10 institution which comes to your mind. So if any of the institution is able to come in, figure in top 10 which they have asked, then only the consideration is there. If I am the 11th one in that, no score for me. So that is why this is one of the major challenge in QS. So QS is 50% is not considering any data from the institution, although it is right now 45%, but almost 50% earlier it is actually. The next parameter which they have recently introduced is 5% for sustainability. So this is a new thing which they have add on. And the reason is because nowadays we are so much talking about sustainable development goals as SDGs. So just to incorporate the requirement how we are performing on the SDG part, that is again one of the consideration SDGs there. There are some other things also. A weightage of 5% has been given. So they simply consider the kind of publication you are having, how many of those publications actually cater the requirement across the 17 SDGs, whether your work is actually related to any of the keywords which they have identified as a consideration for these 17 SDGs. So that is one way of considering the sustainability also from the institution. 10% is for faculty student ratio. Earlier this was also higher side, but now they have what you can say reduced this because there is a huge demand from the country like India and other, where this is always a challenging factor, because in the foreign there are many institutions which are having a faculty student ratio somewhere 1:5, 1:10, which is never possible in the country like us. So there is a huge pressure on them just to have this kind of improvement in this. So nowadays it is just about 10% only. Okay, so this is what we are having on the student faculty student ratio. So in the faculty student ratio, definitely they simply consider the total number of students on roll as well as the total number of faculty. So it is a simple calculation based upon that only. Next is the citation per faculty. So you can see citation per faculty, the weightage is 20%. So try to make out a difference here, because this parameter makes a huge difference. Okay, ISC Bangalore is top performing institution the moment you are talking about citation per faculty. If I change this by citation per paper, ISC drop down to somewhere 280 or 290 nowadays. So try to make out a difference, citation per faculty and citation per paper. The moment I'm talking about citation per faculty, it means the number of citations earned by, on an average, a faculty member. So if I am producing large number of papers, despite they are having a less number of citations, they are going to be added up and divided by the number of teachers, number of faculty members. So it means if you are having a quantity, not a quality, citation per faculty always comes out to be very high, or you are performing, your performance on this seems to be good. On the other side, if I look at citation per paper, so the moment it is per paper, so it clearly reflects the quality of your publication. It means whatever you are publishing, how well it is taken by others in terms of its advancement in the future research, whether anybody is citing it or not. So that is why this parameter is more quantitative in nature rather than qualitative. And the moment I would say citation per paper, it is more qualitative. So same institution and see the difference, because in THE they don't consider citation per faculty, they consider citation per paper. So the same ISC which is top here seems to be somewhere around 280 or 290 somewhere in the THE. So see the difference just because of one aspect. Okay, so that is why I'm saying it is a more critical part. Okay, Next thing is the international research network. So this is just about the number of collaboration you are having, how many different countries you are having in terms of your number of collaboration. So the number of distinct countries is one of the consideration here. The number of distinct institutions is the another consideration through which they are calculating the kind of score. Okay. Next thing is the employment outcomes. So employment outcomes is going to be quantified in many ways, like the number of placements we are having, the number of what you can say the pass out students, the kind of positions they are having right now across the major big what you can say organization, any kind of critical position they are having. So everything is taken into the consideration regarding the employment outcome. So that is having a percentage of 5%.
There is a question from a participant.
Yeah, sure.
The question is, how is citation per faculty be assessed?
See, citation per faculty be assessed because if I simply go in the Scopus, okay, and if I find out the number of publications by the University of Delhi during the calendar year, let us say 2022, and if this number comes out to be, let us say, I'm just assuming one number, if this number comes out to be 100, okay, so citations in totality by all the publications are 100 during 2022, and if I say the number of faculty members on roll during 2022 are 10 in number, suppose. So my citation per faculty comes out to be what? 100 divided by 10. So it means per faculty, how many citations are there? 10. Okay, but on the other side, if I look at with respect to publications, suppose these 100 citations are there because of 50 papers, then citation per paper comes out to be what? 100 by 50. So it comes out to be 2 citation per paper. So see the difference. So that is how I hope you are able to understand, whosoever have raised this query, that how the citations are going to be quantified. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So the next thing is the international faculty. So 5% consideration is for that. What percentage of the total existing faculty members we are having international faculty members? So definitely this is one again a challenge for the university like us, because very difficult to hire any of the international faculty, but definitely we have to go for a common mechanism only. Something are very much suited to us, something are not that much, but this is another consideration.
So in this section, international faculty, is there a difference in, say, hiring from the global south and the global north in terms of developed and developing countries?
No. It simply says that any faculty member other than India is considered as international faculty for us. Okay, because otherwise for them it's very challenge to make it out all such distinctions. So they simply ask how many are international faculty. So for us, anybody who is not from India, any other part of the world is considered as an international faculty. B is from, you can say, Nepal, B is from Bangladesh, B is from any other. All these are considered as international faculty. Okay, same definition is applicable in terms of the international students, because through this parameter they are just trying to make it out how globally we are able to, I mean the institution is fitted globally actually, because how many of the international students or the international faculty members are associated with your institution. So for that they are having a 5% consideration. So this is how this entire 100% consideration for the ranking is there. So you can see 50 in this, we are just providing the information for what, because generally we are saying that providing the data is a challenge. We are not providing any data for academic reputation. They are just asking the number. It is not mandatory whether we will provide or not. It will nowhere make any difference in your ranking. Okay, so we are not providing any information for academic reputation, employer reputation. We are not providing any information for the this citation per faculty. They are simply asking the number of faculty. For citation, we are not providing. Okay, regarding the international faculty, we are providing international students. We are providing employment outcomes. We are providing an international research network. Also, we don't need to provide. So hardly minimum information we need to provide here in terms of the actual data. Everything we are relying on third-party kind of mechanism only. Okay, so but definitely in the QS, the major challenge is the 50% of consideration with respect to what? Reputation. Okay, so now you can see I have just pointed out just to show you the difference here. Asia rankings also, I mean a regional ranking. So in the regional ranking, you can see the weightage has been changed now. Academic reputation is 30%, but now employer reputation has become what? 20%. Okay, so now here 50% weightage is there. Faculty student, in the what you can say in the World University ranking, it was 20%, and now it has been reduced to what? 10%. So it is applicable in both the ways. So they are just making out these differences just to make it out more connected with your requirements. Okay, because so that you can say that yes, whatever well we are performing, that thing has been taken into the consideration. Okay, so you cannot compare two things. Okay, so that is one thing you have to make it clear in your mind. Next. Now, a few technical parts which I would like that you should have a clarity in your mind. Okay, regarding the research calculations, like in terms of the number of papers and in terms of the number of citations. So generally, the ranking are considering 5 years window actually. Okay, QS is also considering 5 years window. So you can see if we go by the number of papers and if there is a ranking for any specific year, like say suppose always QS ranking for goes 2 years ahead in terms of ranking. Like say suppose if we have to apply for the QS ranking, we are supposed to apply for QS ranking 2025. Okay, because we are using the data till 2023. So it is always in that way. The definition says it is always 2 years ahead for that part. Okay, so they always consider 5 years window for the publications and 6 years window for the consideration of what? Citations. It means the number of papers which have been published in 5 years window. You can see during 2017 to 2021, the number of papers which have been published during these calendar years, their citations which have been received by these papers during the same what you can say period, as well as what? 1 more year. So that is why in citation they are considering 6 years, and for publication they are taking what? 5 years window. So this is how they are taking the regarding this information, and they totally rely on Scopus only. Any other kind of publication they never consider for the purpose of calculating the citations, as well as for the purpose of calculating the papers from any institution. Next. Okay, now here regarding the what you can say the papers and the citations, few things I just for a kind of clarity to you, where I have written in, it means these are the different kind of publications which are allowed to be considered, and where I have written out, these are those publications which they never consider. Like say suppose in means what? Any kind of article or a review article or a conference paper or a book chapter or an article in press, because nowadays article in press is a major thing which we have to understand, because actually a publication get a specific volume or serial or page numbers later on. Okay, so we are not supposed to wait that till that time. Every publication, the moment it get accepted and its final what you can say formatting has been done, it comes into the what you can say online, which we consider as the article in press or online first you can say, and the business article. So these are the different kind of consideration, I mean different kind of papers which they consider for the purpose, but they never consider what I have written under out. You can see abstract reports, because these are available on Scopus. So they always exclude any kind of conference review, editorials, erratum, letter, note, press release, short survey. All these are not going to be considered for the purpose. Okay, so these are few technical things which you should have in your mind. Next. Yeah. So regarding these citations, they always rely on those citations which have been provided or taken by other researchers for your work. So it means self-citation, they always exclude. It means if I have any citation in my own paper of my any other previous paper, that would not consider for the purpose. So self-citation, they always exclude out. Okay, so that is why we have to see that how much citation I have with respect to other researchers rather than myself own. Okay, so that is one thing you have to see. And the variable affiliation cap, I already have discussed with you, because they are having a different variable cap regarding the number of authors. So that is why they are considering. The reason is just for the purpose of normalizing the things, so that there should not be any kind of what you can say disadvantage with respect to one publication over the other. Next. Okay. See what is there? No problem. Okay, fine. See, sometimes if anything has been published in any of my research article, and if the later on, if myself finds that there is any kind of error in it, or even if some other author find that there is any kind of error. So just to rectify that error, they come up with this kind of error. Okay, so that anything which is available in a public domain, it should be available with all clarity, with all correctness, because there may be some error because of typing issues, because of some other thing. So sometimes just because of a small mistake, it makes a difference in its interpretation. So that is why we need to be corrected. Okay, so that is why we require this kind of publication. So it always comes under the category of erratum only. I hope it is okay now. Yeah. Next. So here I have just mentioned out, definitely it is difficult from here to visualize. Here I have mentioned out the number of authors kept. So you can see in the very top, I have written physics and astronomy. So you can see the affiliation cap is what? 100. Okay. So these are some of the analysis they are supposed to do. We are not supposed to go in these detailing, but just to have the idea that how they are able to make it out. So they are having their own affiliation caps regarding, it means the number of authors which are there in a paper, they should not be from more than 100 institutions. Despite that, okay, the high energy physics or this area are difficult to consider in this requirement, although they have given a very large capping. 100 is a large number in terms of the institutions. Okay, but otherwise you can see in other it is reducing. Okay, so that depends upon what you can say area specific requirements are there. So just to have equal opportunity to everybody, that this kind of normalization has been done. Yes, next. Okay, so I have just given you the basic understanding regarding the international ranking actually. Okay, and now I come to the NIRF. I mean the well-known. Sure, I don't know what is the process you are having. If you need, so 5 minute ka break kare. Okay, then we are taking a 5-minute break on the request of the what you can say participants. So we'll resume after 5 minutes. Okay, so now let us begin again. So what we have done, we in the first half, we have just discussed about one of the international ranking framework. So now I am focusing in the second half on a national ranking framework. So that is also known as NIRF ranking. So this is the ranking which definitely this has been a great initiative which has been taken by the Ministry of Education now. And so these ranking have been launched somewhere in 2015 actually. So the first ranking they have launched in 2016. Okay, so in 2015 they have just launched that, okay, we will come up with the NIRF ranking now. So the first ranking they have come up in the year 2016 actually. So this is a kind of framework which you may consider that it is able to capture the kind of requirements the Indian institutions are having. But again, if you look at the NIRF, it also has certain kind of criticism, certain kind of possible improvement areas. Okay, so on which definitely year after year they are also trying, and definitely in the future also we will see that some kind of improvements or some kind of changes definitely they are going to supposed to take. Okay, so here the main purpose of the NIRF, I mean their objective is not just to show you that, okay, you are the top institution or you are the worst institution. They are not having any kind of such framework, and that is why they are not providing a complete NIRF ranking. They are just providing till a specific number only. Why is it so? Because if they rank all the institutions, suppose let us say if I take the example of 400 institutions if are there, and if they rank all the 400, and if any institution is at the 400 level, and definitely that creates a too much of what you can say negative perception in the mind of each individual who is supposed to be a part of that institution in any kind of capacity, be it as a student or be it any other. So that is why they have restricted themselves to 100 institutions only, and that is the major reason. So that is why their main objective is just to recognize the kind of performance actually, so that they can put more emphasis on further its improvement in the international ranking. Okay, so through this kind of framework, they are able to make it out some kind of extraction which they can use in various kind of policy decisions. Okay, but nowhere they are considering that, okay, if any institution is at the worst level or at the bottom level, they never go in that kind of interpretation actually. So that is one thing we have to keep in mind regarding this. Next. So how can NIRF ranking be advantageous? Okay, I mean, definitely one point is that, okay, it is a national ranking framework, so able to have more, what you can say, they are able to capture our requirements in a better way. But definitely apart from that, it has its own advantages. Like first I have written as a comparison. So comparison in what context? Comparison in the context that an institution is better than the rest, then we are not able to say that an institution is better than the rest. It also says that it is better on what kind of parameters, because it may be possible that an institution is ranked 1 in totality, but maybe at a level but maybe at a rank of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or some other number on a specific parameter. So that is why you have to see ranking in totality, not just as a final number only. Because if you look at from a final number, you may say that, okay, I am performing best because I'm at the top level. But it may be possible that I am not performing that much good on an average if I look at the other of my peers on any specific parameter. So that is why you have to go for parameter by parameter further analysis. So that kind of comparison is possible here, which is not possible otherwise in the other ranking, which we are having a kind of, what you can say, extra advantage here, which we are having in the case of NIRF. Next thing is definitely it is attracting the students, because when the student, they go for any kind of, or what you can say, opting for any of the institution for getting any degree or something, they always look at the rankings nowadays, because NIRF has been well established now. So everybody is talking about that, what NIRF ranking an institution is having. Word of mouth advertising. So you can see that the same thing is applicable here also. Okay, whenever these kind of rankings announced, so the next 2-3 days, every newspaper, every agency, okay, be it in a digital form or be it in any other form, they are just talking about the kind of ranking the institutions are having, which one is performing well, which has been dropped, okay, by how many rankings. So everything is, those kind of analysis are there. So definitely it provides a kind of advertising platform. So word of mouth is always the best way to do any kind of marketing, and even without paying anything. Look at the major advantage we are having. So the next slide is, so here you just look at the India ranking over last many years. So you can see starting from 2016, for the first time, they have just ranked universities and for specific discipline only. They have just ranked 3 disciplines: engineering, management, and pharmacy. They have just considered these 3, what you can say, disciplines and the universities in the first ranking which they have. And after that, over the years, you can see every year they have some kind of enhancement. Okay, just to capture different requirements of the institution, they are having a different ranking. So for example, you can see in the year 2017, common overall ranking and ranking of general degree colleges was introduced. Similarly, in 2018, 3 new categories, namely law, medicine, and architecture, were introduced. So all these things are just for the purpose of providing a broader umbrella, so that they are able to rank all kind of institutions. And recently, you can see in the last 2023, 2 more categories they have considered, that is agriculture and allied sector and innovation were introduced, bringing the total 13 rankings now. So they are having a 13 different kind of rankings. Okay, so an institution, wherever you find yourself fit, okay, that, okay, any of the institution is an agriculture institution, so I may go for that kind of ranking actually. Okay, so this is just showing a kind of journey that, and this also shows, yes, rankings are very much in demand. That is why they are also paying so much efforts. Otherwise, if they find that, okay, it is not actually a fruitful exercise, they will not go for this kind of advancement year by year, every year. Okay, next. So now if you look at the ranking parameters for the NIRF, so these are the broad ranking parameters they are considering. So the first is teaching, learning, and resources. Second one is research and professional practice. Next is graduate outcome. Next is outreach and inclusivity, and next is perception. So these are the major ranking parameters they are having. Now, next I will show you that what is their weightage and what they are considering in all these parameters. So next. So you can see for teaching, learning and resources, definitely for everything marks is 100 only. Okay, but it depends upon the weightage. Okay, so ultimately final marks also comes out to be 100 because you are multiplying with the weight. So if 100 will multiply with a weight of 30%, so its actual score is what? 30 only. So that is how they are able to get 100 only at the last also. So you can see teaching, learning and resources having a weightage of 30%, research and professional practice having a weightage of 30%, graduation outcome 20% weightage, outreach and inclusivity 10%, and you can see in perception it is only what? 10%. So see the difference. In QS ranking it is about 45%, and now it is only 10%. Okay, because perception is a major influential factor, or what you can say, the one which is more criticized in ranking. So considering that part, they have controlled it by having a very less weightage. Okay, next. So if you look at the first one, first parameter, teaching, learning and resources, which have a weightage of 30%. So in order to capture the teaching, learning and resources in totality of an institution, they are considering 5 aspects in it. Okay, first is student strength, which has a weightage of what? 20. Okay, because in totality it has a weightage of it has a total score of what? 100. So this is how the score has been split. So 20 marks is there for student strength, 25 is for faculty student ratio, faculty with PhD is 20 marks, financial resources and utilization have a score of 20, and online education, which they have recently added, I mean after the COVID only, has a weightage of 15 marks. So what these parameters are all about? Okay, I will just give you the basic understanding of all these components. Okay, so when we are talking about student strength, so in student strength, they include all kind of students, even including what? PhD students. Okay, so this is what their definition says, that for them, what is the meaning of student strength means all kind of your UG, PG program which you are running, as well as your PhD students also. Next is in the faculty student ratio. In the faculty student ratio, definitely their emphasis is on permanent faculty, but if any faculty has taught in any other capacity for 2 semesters regularly, then also that faculty is counted here. Like for example, if there is a faculty in terms of ad hoc or even in other mechanisms, the only requirement is what? The teacher should have taught starting from September till April. So this is what their consideration. There should not be any break or any gap in these 8 months actually. So it is starting from September and goes up to April. So the problem is that you will rarely find anybody who has this kind of continuity, because their definition says you should have a continuity of this 8 months in teaching. Then only you that may be considered as a faculty member for the purpose. Previous only. Yes. Next is the FQE. I mean the faculty with PhD. So combined metric for faculty with PhD they are considering. It means how many out of the total faculty members who are having highest degree as what? PhD. So for that also there is a weightage. Next is financial resources and their utilization. So here they simply focus on the kind of what you can say the financial resources you are having, what kind of grants you have received, and how the utilization comes out to be per student. And you can see this per student, this kind of many of these parameters are relative in nature. Okay, relative in nature means they are not having any benchmark. Like in a faculty student ratio, there is a benchmark. Benchmark means 1:15. If any institution is performing with 1:15 or better, they are getting a full score. So I know the benchmark. But in terms of the, let us say, financial resources and their utilization, it is not a benchmark. It is more relative. If there is an institution in any one particular year where the average per student comes out to be, let us say, 10,000. So that figure will become a kind of benchmark. So that is why these things are more relatively. So you cannot only improve your performance by assuming that I am performing well. You also have to see that the others, how they are performing. Because if you are able to attain 1:15, you are that sure that you are able to attain whatever is required. But on the other parameters which are relative, things are not in your control. You may have improved, but if others also have improved by the same proportion, then still you are at what? Same level, whatever you were last year. So that is why you have to, your focus should be on, in a first case, your focus should be on those parameters which are in a kind of having a benchmarking in it. So through that you can improve first, and then you talk about the other kind of parameters. Next. So here I'm just talking about the basic calculations with respect to all these. So we have discussed about the student strength. So I'm just relating the formula what they are having. So their formula says that it is actually out of two kind of what you can say students, NT and NE. So your NT and NE is the function of what? NT stands for total sanctioned approved intake in an institution. So if your approved intake is, let us say, 100, and if the actual strength N is the total number of students on roll, it comes out to be 80. So it always takes maximum of these two. So if you are having a students more than the sanction strength because of one or the other reason, then also you are a loser, because the function takes maximum of these two. F, which is a function of NT and NE. So this is a function which applies as maximum of these two. So if I am having a actual strength, I mean the sanction strength is 100 and the admissions are 80, then also 100 is counted. And if it is 100 sanction and the actual strength is 110, then 110 is counted. Okay, and your NP is regarding the total number of students who have enrolled in the doctoral program, I mean the PhD. So for that, for PhD, they are having a weightage of 5 marks, and for other kind of students, they are having a weightage of 15 marks. Okay, so this is what the first point is regarding the student strength. Next is the faculty student ratio. So in the faculty student ratio, their benchmark is basically the entire game is based upon F and N only. So what is F and what is N? Here, that thing you have to understand. So F means the full-time regular faculty members in an institution in the definitely the last previous year, okay, academic year which you are considering. And in the denominator, you are having what? You are having N, which is the sum of what? Your NT and NP. Try to make it out in this way. They always consider N with respect to what? The benchmark 1:15. Like say, suppose if there are 150 students are there in the institution, then by 1:15, how many teachers are required? 10 teachers are required. Okay, and if actual strength is 8, then this formula simply becomes 8 by 10. So it means 80%. So your marks out of 15, because the benchmark is 1:15, it is going to be balanced out and you are getting the final score. Okay, so I'm not going in those calculations. I'm just giving you the basic idea. But if your performance is below than 1:50, then you are not getting any score. Okay, so here you can see the benchmarks are fixed. So I know while submitting my data, I can find out what my score is. But in the relative, I cannot make out what my score will be, because that depends upon the performance of the others. But here I know what is ultimately my score comes out to be, whether I'm getting that score or not. Next thing is, yes, next. So next is the FQ is, I mean the combined metric, faculty with PhD equivalents and experience. So here they are considering two types of things. One is the how many faculty members are there with PhD, and what about the proportion in terms of their experience. So they are considering, I mean, the faculty with up to 8 years experience as one block of faculty members, and 8 plus goes up to 15. Another block of faculty members, and those who are having 15 or more years of experience is the another class of faculty members for them. And their general requirement says, in an institution, the ratio between these three kind of faculty members should be what? 1:1:1. It means if there are 45 faculty members and in each category there are 15, 15, 15, then that is the best combination they are looking for, because it has all kind of what you can say equal weightage to the middle, what you can say experienced faculty members, young faculty members, as well as what? The experienced faculty members. So that is what their requirement is. So this is how they are taking into the consideration that part also, that you are having total faculty, but within total faculty, how much you are there in these three different slabs. Okay, so that is what they are having. Next is regarding FRU. So here you can see they are considering the average annual expenditure on capital as well as average annual expenditure on recurring part actually. And here they are not considering anything related to construction of any new building or the what you can say any kind of maintenance which you have done for the hostels or allied services. That you have to separate out. Any other thing, whatever is there in recurring and non-recurring, that information we have to provide. And ultimately, they are going to be divided by what? Your number of students, whichever is maximum. Sanction strength or on roll, whatever is maximum, they are going to be divided by that. And that is how they are having a score. So 5 marks is for their, this capital expenditure, and for 15 marks is for your recurring part. This is how they are considering the weightage actually. So here you cannot apply any kind of formula because it is relative. It depends upon how it comes out to be. Okay. Next is your online education. So here their focus is just about how many of the what you can say any kind of online courses has been developed by the faculty members of your institutions. So any kind of online what you can say the courses they are considering, definitely SWAM or some other online platform also. Based upon that, it is also a relative only. Those who are performing at best, they will become a benchmark, and then accordingly they give scores to the other institutions. They are not having a predefined benchmark here. They are not expecting that at least 10 courses should be there per year. No such requirement is there. It is purely a relative only. Okay, so that is how you have to see this parameter. Next important parameter is research and professional practice. So it also has a weightage of 30%. And for this part, they are considering 4 different aspects. So they are giving 35 marks to the publications, 35 marks to what? Citations, 15 marks to patents, and 15 marks to research projects. So for the publication, they are totally relying on Scopus publication only. Scopus as well as what you can say your Web of Science publications, they are not considering any other kind of publication. Okay, so for that, you have to see that if you are having any publication in UGC care also even, this is also by the, our government also, and UGC care list also by government. But they are giving an emphasis to what? Scopus only, because that is a widely acceptable platform. Okay, so that is why despite you are having many publications, but if they are not Scopus index or Web of Science index, you are not getting any kind of credit. Okay, so that is what. Regarding the citations, they are again relying on the Scopus and Web of Science only, the citations which have been received by the publications you are having. But here window is what? 3 years. Okay, so that difference is there. Earlier in the QS, it was a 5 years window. Here the window is not 5 years, here it's for 3 years. The next thing is regarding the patents. They are just considering the patents which are actually granted. Any kind of patents which you have applied, although they are asking for the information, but the final marks which they are giving, they are only giving for the purpose of which have been granted actually. Next is the research projects. So any kind of funding which you are having through your research projects, consultancy, all these things they are considering in the research projects here. Okay, so that is what these 4 parameters are all about. Let me just give you the basic idea also regarding this. Next. So you can see here regarding the publication, the weightage is 35 marks. So you can see here, it is not just purely a publication, you can see. P is the weighted number of publications as assigned by the suitable third-party source. So that I have told you already what is a third-party sources. And FRQ is the maximum of the nominal number of faculty members as calculated on the basis of what? Faculty-student ratio. So they always consider 1:15 as a benchmark. So based upon that benchmark, whatever the number of faculty members comes out to be, they always divide your number of publication by that number, not by your actual number of the faculty members. Okay, so that is how they are giving a score here. Okay, next is regarding the quality of publications. So in the previous, you are considering the publication in totality. You are focusing on what? Quality now. So quality means how many of the publications are there out of the total publication in top 25%, or you can say in the first quartile. So whatever the number of publications out of the total publications are there in the first quartile, for that you are having a weightage of what? A separate 15 marks, and 20 marks is for your other way of the maximum nominal number of the faculty members which they are publishing in general. So this is how the quantification of quality is also there in this parameter. Next thing is already I've told you regarding the patents published and granted. So they are always asked for both the information, but generally the consideration is with respect to the granted only. So they are taking the weightage of again 15 marks they are considering. They generally they say that they consider 10 for the granted and 5 for the what you can say the published. Okay, but this is what the basic requirement is. Generally they should be published. I mean they should be granted. That is what the weightage actually they are taking into the care. Next. Okay, so regarding the footprint of the projects and the professional practice and the executive development programs. So here, all these things are taken into the care. Any kind of FDPs which have been organized by your institution. Okay, so that also comes here. Okay, so any kind of fund which has been generated through them, any kind of the projects you are having from the external agencies. So all these things are taken into the care for finding the average annual what you can say earning with respect to the program separately and with respect to what the number of you are having from the external fundings, that is separately. And here also everything is going to be quantified in terms of what the number of teachers you are having. Okay, so they are not having any kind of standard benchmark. It is again coming out to be what relatively only. Okay, so you have to be very much clear about that part regarding this consideration. Next is your graduation outcome, which have a weightage of 20%. So for that, earlier there were 4 different parameters for this, but from 2023 they are just considering 2 parts here. They are having a 60%, 60 marks for the university examinations and for 40 marks for the PhD students. Okay, so you can see regarding the PhD student, they simply ask regarding how many PhDs have been awarded by the institution. Okay, so that is what the parameter is. So again, it is also a relative only. It is not having any kind of benchmark. And the another one is regarding the metric for the university examination. So in the university examination, on the next slide, I will discuss the details which we actually required here. Next. So you can see what is the major requirement is. So if you look at the formula, this says NG by 80. That is the entire game regarding here. So NG is the percentage of students averaged over the previous 3 years passing the respective university examination in a stipulated time for the program in which enrolled. It means how many of the students are able to complete their degree. That is what, and their expectation is what? Benchmark is 80%. So here you know what is the benchmark. So if your result shows that across all the programs, if your average percentage comes out to be in last 3 batches, because it is always considered last 3 year data, it comes out to be 80%. So it always comes out to be you are always able to get a complete score of 60. Otherwise, it is going to be reduced by the same proportion, how much you have been deviated from this 80%. Okay, so this is what the major parameter they are having. Next, regarding the number of PhD. So this is again a simple formula only, but this depends upon relative. How many PhDs you have been done per teacher, that is not taken into the consideration. What is the best performance across all the institutions? Whatever that number comes out to be, then they will decide accordingly that how they are going to give this course to the rest of the institutions. But they are not having any predetermined number like we are having in the case of the examination as such. Next. So next is outreach and inclusivity. So here again, any question is there? Dear admin, please provide this soft copy, which very much essential for us. Okay, so here next. ठीक है, अभी ये करने के बाद में मैं इसमें 1-2 चीज मुझे दिखे मैं रिफाइन कर दूंगा, आप दे दीजिएगा इनको. देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम. अल्टीमेटली आई हैव आल्सो प्रिपेयर्ड फ्रॉम द सोर्सेज ना, ये तो मेरा पब्लिक तो पर्सनल तो है नहीं. So basically in the ranking parameter they are considering 4 major aspects into the consideration. One is the regional diversity, women diversity. Next is economically and socially challenged students and physically challenged students. So this is how they are having a score of 30-30 and 20-20, which comes out to be 100. So let me just discuss one by one what is their expectation and what are their benchmarks actually. Next slide, because the details are there. So you can see the percentage of students from other states and countries. That is what their requirement in terms of what? Regional diversity. And in the regional diversity, you can see 25 marks they are giving for the fraction of the total students enrolled from other states. So the more weightage is there within, and for the international students, it is having what, 5 marks only. And here, what proportion, there is no benchmark. It again depends upon relatively only, because they are not having any expectation, like let us say 5% is what the expectation is there in terms of the international student. It is purely depends upon what specific figures are there by the institution and what is the best performance comes out to be. So whatever the best performance comes out to be, accordingly they will decide the block and they will give you the mark. If you are not at the top level, you are at somewhere below than what the top performance is. Okay, so this is how their consideration is. Next is women diversity. In terms of the women diversity, they consider two things, both students as well as what, faculty members. So they are considering 15 marks for the students and the again 15 marks for what, faculty members. So their expectation is what, here benchmark are fixed. They are expecting 50% of women students. So their benchmark is 50%. It means if you in your institution you are having 50% or more women candidates, definitely you are getting a complete 15 marks. And if you are having a 20% women faculty, so in terms of the teaching faculty, their expectation is only what, 20%. So if out of 100, if you are having 20 women faculty members, definitely you are getting a complete score of 15. Otherwise, it is going to be reduced accordingly. Okay, whatever deviation you are having from the expected 20%. Okay. Next is economically and socially challenged students. So this again depends upon what you can say, the percentage of students who are getting some kind of fee waive off from the institution. Okay, any kind of reimbursement. Okay, so that they can complete their degree program. So any kind of fee reimbursement which have been provided by the institution. Okay, so that number of students is considered here. So it is again relative. They are not having any kind of benchmark as such. Okay. So next is facilities for physically challenged students. So they are giving 20 marks if the institution provides full facilities for physically challenged students as outlined. So basically whatever the basic requirements they are having, if you are having all those ramp and other requirements at whatever level they require, like in library they require. So at every level, whatever their separate requirements are there, like washroom and everything. If you are having all these facilities, definitely you are able to get a complete score. Here they are not having any kind of relative comparison or any kind of benchmarking as such. Next. Next is your perception, the last one, which having a weightage of 10%. So for the perception, they are also relying on what? Two kind of what you can say inputs. One is from the academic peers and another one is what? Employers. I mean, those organizations which are actually visiting your institution for some kind of placement or in some other kind of engagement, and definitely academicians also. So they are having their own survey. They simply get this information and they also ask simple question. Simply write down top 10 institutions which comes to your mind. So if any of the institution falls in those 10, they are able to give this score, otherwise no score. They are not having any other big question here. They are not asking any details. They simply are having a specific question that, okay, simply answer these many institutions on this requirement. So if your institution is within that category, the score is there, otherwise there is no score. So this is what is there in the peer perception. Next. So this already I have discussed with you that what is the requirement is. So next, this is the last you are having. If any question is there, definitely you are most welcome.
Except perception portion,
Hmm.
we have to provide an entire data.
No, sir. Actually, in NIRF, they are not asking every year any kind of information, but they are also following the similar mechanism which has been adopted by QS. After a gap of 3 or 4, 5 years, they every time ask, please provide a set of 200 academicians and 200 hiring agencies which comes to or visit your institution, and they are also having their entire what you can say pool, and from that pool they randomly send the emails. So there is no control on that. That is a purely a random exercise. So you cannot say that even though you have provided some names, there is no questionnaire has been received at their end for anything. So it is a purely a random process. So why they are asking? Just to create a pool, na? Otherwise they have to do the entire exercise. So that is why they are asking from the institutions. They are able to get readily available information. Na? Email and everything is there. They don't have to put their mind or their efforts for collecting this data. Yes, if anybody has any other question, may ask.
Question from the online participant. आवाज आ रही है आप लोगों को?
जी आ रही है।
ठीक है।
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, ji.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, I am Dr. Ashok, Principal of INR Janayamal College, Sivagasi, Tamil Nadu, sir.
Okay, sir.
In the year 2016, our college stood in the NARF rank 17th, sir.
Okay.
Gradually, our ranking has come down, and we got down till 89, and we are able to come back 69th position, sir.
Okay.
But we observe some of the institutions are more than 100th rank in the third year. Last year they came into the 100th rank. Now they gone up to 20th rank.
Okay.
We observe that, or we believe that there is a back door for entering into NAC as well as NARF.
Okay.
Correct me if I am wrong.
Sir, see,
we strongly believe there are some back doors for reaping the higher ranking and rating in NARF and NAC.
Okay, sir. Now let me give a clarification from my side. See, first thing is I am not the right person to comment on this issue. The second thing is what is my understanding says. I'm just sharing that understanding because we have also faced the challenges at University of Delhi also. It is not something which you have faced, we have also faced. See, wherever the benchmark has been fixed, see, try to make it out one thing. If I quantify in two categories where the benchmark has been fixed and where a relative performance is there. So it comes out to be around almost 45 and 55% in a way. So 45% score, the moment you are submitting, you can quantify very clearly how much score you are able to get. If any deviation you are finding in those scores, not even in your institution, even in any institution, because it is a data which you can easily verify, then how you can challenge that there is any kind of issue? Regarding the relative, we are not having any control. And the another thing also, let me just clear with you, sir. When they have started with the ranking, very less number of the institutions are participating. So if there are only 2 or 3 institutions, I may be at the rank 1, 2, 3 or like that. If the number of institutions have been increased, then definitely the relative things start making more impact. And then you have to, because it is not just about I am doing well. It is also about how others are doing, whether they are able to at the same level what they have in the last year, or they are also able to improve. So it is not just about improving myself. It is also about how my peers are also improving or not. If their pace is more than you, then definitely you will not find any improvement in your ranking.
Yes, sir. Yes, of course, I do accept your logical reasons, sir. Yes. But I can point out this year an institution which is coming within 20th rank.
Okay.
Is not in a position to receive DST fifth grant, whereas in the 69th position, our college has been awarded 1 crore from DST fifth. But that particular institution is rejected for not achieving so much SCI journals publications. Then in that case, the DST is rejecting a particular institution by mentioning that very least number of publication, specifically SCI journals.
Now, sir, I can answer I'm just stopping you here. I can answer this query also very well. There is no issue. See, now you have compared two things. You have
Yes, sir.
let me answer, sir. I will make you comfortable with all the explanation. There is no issue. See, you have compared two things now. See, an institution may have a publication, large number of publication in Scopus. It doesn't mean that they are also having equal number of publication in SCI publication, because the FIST which you are talking about, their focus is on SCI journals. Their focus is not on Scopus publication. See,
Sir, in both the cases, we are far better than that particular institution, sir. It is a empirical evidence given by our institution as well as that particular institution, sir. I don't want to mention this institution. So we strongly object. Why should you insist upon NARF and NAC ranking? It is a very big question, sir. Instead of teaching and research, we have been going on preparing for NAC as well as NARF. That is not recognized. That is not properly recognized by NAC as well as NARF. Sir. This is a very, very bad example in our higher education institution, sir. I want to register this one, but this is the situation we are facing, sir. That's all.
Sir, don't worry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for raising this question in this forum, sir. Thank you. Sorry, very sorry.
No problem, sir. No problem at all.
Yes, sir. It's okay, sir. But please go ahead, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other participant?
No more questions, Haji. If no question is there, then thank you. Thank you so much for actually giving your time also, because nowadays everybody is busy. So thank you so much for listening the presentation, whatever the possible from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
हाँ, मुझे तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है यार. मैं तो एक दो जगह इम्प्रूव करना था.
सर ग्रुप पे ही कर दीजिए.
हाँ जी, अच्छा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं.
सर कल वाली, आज वाली फाइनेंस वाली और सर के तीनों पीपीटीज शेयर करेंगे. फाइनेंस की कहाँ थी आज? अच्छा